if I had all these votes, no, come on, count the polls. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm going to call the meeting of the Richmond City Council for Monday, February 12th, 2024 to order. I have a motion on the minutes. May I have a
So moved.
moved and seconded? Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Any agenda additions or deletions? Madam
None, Your
Clerk.
Worship.
All right. May I have a motion to resolve it in a committee of the whole to hear delegations on items that are on the agenda? All those in favor, opposed, carried. So this brings us to the portion of the agenda where we are going to be hearing from people who are concerned with an item that is on the agenda. Now, I want to assure you that we're going to hear everybody, though we do have a long speakers list, and I'm going to simply take it in the order that I have it on that list. But before we get going, I just want to remind you of a few of the rules and mandates for attending a city council meeting. First of all, in the audience, there's no use of cell phones. So if you have a cell phone, if you need to make a call or receive a call or anything, please leave the room. We're not going to be having the audience participation with applause or with comments. And also because of the acoustics in this room, we're going to ask you not to have your discussions out there either. We're not in a position to have PowerPoints or other graphic illustrations. If you want to give something to council, by all means, have it printed out and give us copies and we can take a look at it. Now, what the procedure is going to be is that I will call upon a speaker, and I have a long list of who that is, just in the order that they contacted us. Some will be in person, some will be online. But what I want you to do is I will tell you who's the first speaker, so that person will come on down. Then the second and the third speaker, I want you to get up, identify yourself to staff, and come over here and stand at the bottom of the stairs. So that as soon as the speaker is finished, we want you to go right up and you'll be the next person there. The meeting is going to go a long time. I can tell from the size of the names that we have. The meeting will go until 11 o'clock if we need it. And if we're not finished, then we'll talk about where we go from there. But I do want to emphasize, and I will continue to emphasize, that the speakers list is formed tonight. So if we go more than one night and we have more speakers, we're not going to be adding to the list after tonight. So with that, I just want to read to you a portion, because I know most of you are here to talk about the supervised consumption site. This is what was given out by way of a media statement yesterday. My goodness. Okay, Mr. Clerk, can you shut the door, please? Neither the City of Richmond or Council can actually open or operate a supervised consumption site. That decision lies with Health Canada and Vancouver Coastal Health, which must apply for and grant an exemption under Section 56.1 of the Controlled Drug and Substances Act. Should Council vote in favor of exploring a supervised consumption site in Richmond, it will be up to Vancouver Coastal Health to decide whether such a site is in the interest of public health and safety and develop an application to Health Canada accordingly. Thirdly, the supervised consumption sites provide a safe location for individuals with addiction to administer their own drugs under the supervision of a qualified health professional. The sites or staff do not hand out drugs to users, but provide access to addiction treatment and recovery services. A council vote in favor of a supervised consumption site tonight would only mean sharing that expression of support with Vancouver Coastal Health, which must then decide if a site is feasible and worthy of the extensive application process. So please keep those very basic facts in mind. So now we're going to come to the actual speakers. And almost everybody is on that one item on the agenda. The first speaker is Lillian Sang. Is she here? Lillian Sang? Is that you? Yes. Okay. The next speaker, please have a seat. The next speaker will be Stephanie Yu. Is she online? She's online. And then Kenneth Lowe. Is he here tonight? Or is he online? Okay. So, Stephanie, you will be ready to go by Zoom. All right. So what you do is you state your name and your address, tell us what's on your mind, and you're being given 5 minutes. Now, because of there being so many people here, so many people wanting to speak, the mics will be cut off after 5 minutes. If you look to the monitors, you will see how much time is left. You had your hand up. Was that for a question?
Yes. I cannot hear what I need to provide. Is my name and is it address? I cannot hear it very clearly. Can you?
I'm sorry, you can't hear what?
Is it just my name or do I have to provide my address as well? Can you repeat that question? I cannot hear. I missed
It's
that.
customary you provide your name and your address.
And my address. Okay, sure. Should I start now?
Yes, you have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Pull the mic right in close. No, just the one, and pull it close. That's the one that's on. Yes, the box moves. All right. Now you've moved. Hey, quit it.
I'm just gonna. Oh, okay. Sorry, a little bit nervous. My apologies.
All right, you've got 5 minutes.
My name is Lillian San. I live at 7380 Ambridge Way, Richmond. Councillors, with all my respect, please withdraw the policy of supervised consumption site today. My name is Lillian San. I'm a mother. I need to voice out my concerns to the City of Richmond. Knowing supervised consumption house was passed to be implemented within a week without any public consultation and transparency gave me many mixed feelings. Shock, worry, and a lot of questions. I talked to many parents that I know. It seems no one is aware and truly know what this means. The name itself, supervised consumption site, does not help me to relate to the real situation. And when I tried to dig out more, it did not give me comfort. And I can't imagine what could have happened to me as a resident, my kid who studied close to the Richmond Hospital, and the community that I like it very much. I felt so sorry for those people who doesn't know this policy and feel obligated to let them know before it is too late. I thank you to the online petition that helped us to raise our voice. The figure speaks for itself. It reached to almost 18,000 within such a short period of time, which is amazing. No matter how the City of Council or VHC tell us this is safe with all the facts and hypotheses, it will not change my mind that we should be away from drugs, but not close to drugs. My family is zero tolerance to drugs, and I empathize those who are suffering because they really need help. Give them a safe place to consume drugs, to me, is a soft love. that give them temporary relief, but the toxic continues to kill their body and soul slowly, that it is really cruel. Give them proper quality treatment and rehabilitation or hard love, and it could be very hard for them during the process. But this is the best way to let them recover with a finish line and good for the society. And parents like me have a comment on the petition that touched my heart. Janitor, from the petition, one of the comments. My son overdosed and died from drugs. And what is the point of a safe site when they will still do drugs? It's a waste of tax dollars and space. One way or another way, they will get the drugs and do them, and no one will stop them. I would really want our counselors to listen to our voices and take a balanced view for both sides. This is our expectation, that we are not exposed to drugs. And we take all the necessary measures to stop it and apply effective methods to help those in need. This is the love we lead for everyone. Lastly, we really learned a big lesson this time, that we should be more thoughtful of our votes for next election. Then we won't be spending so much effort to try to step up and speak for ourselves and our family as individuals. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, excuse me. I thought we got it straight. There aren't going to be any demonstrations here. There's only one way you're going to give your input to this city council, and that is to get your name on the list and you come down to this seat and you tell us what's on your mind. I can tell you, it will not happen again. Okay? If you want to be part of this discussion and part of this decision, then you will respect the process. This is not some kind of a theater or a carnival. This is a very solemn occasion where we are making important discussions and decisions for the city. And I can tell you that I've been doing this since the mid-90s, and that is the first time I've had that kind of a reaction here in the City Council. It is not going to happen. Is there anybody who doesn't understand that? Is there anybody? Fine. That's the way we will proceed. So we're going to have the next speaker on Zoom, and I'll tell you now, you're not going to applaud no matter what that person says, and you're not going to react if someone says something you don't like. This is a solemn occasion. You need to treat it as such. So the next speaker is Stephanie Yu. Is Stephanie on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just a minute. The next speaker is Kenneth Lowe. Is he here yet? Or is he online? Are you Kenneth Lowe? Yes. Okay, then you go and stand right there at the bottom of those stairs because you're on as soon as this speaker is finished. And after that, it's me, Yi. No, sir. No. You stand at the bottom of those stairs because the next speaker is on Zoom. Yeah, right there. Okay, and you're ready to go. And so it's me, Yi, Ing. NG. Are you that person? Right behind this gentleman. All right. So we're going to hear from Stephanie Yu.
My name is Stephanie Yu. I live at 8600 Accord Road. I grew up in Richmond, and my kids are growing up in Richmond as well. As a parent to two young kids, my role has been quite straightforward. Hey, the government builds schools and libraries for us to learn. There are community centers for us to exercise and participate in sports. There are police departments and fire stations to keep us safe. There are clinics and hospitals to help us when we're sick. Not to mention, though, the difficulty in accessing healthcare here. So now we're talking about the safe drug consumption site. How should I explain this to my kids, the rationale of building such a site? I don't have an answer. I'm not saying it's wrong, but is it the best approach? And then I thought of an analogy. So when we go to the dentist, they check for cavities. When we get cavities, the dentist will help us analyze our dietary habits, and usually that's from eating too much sweets. Now the question is, there are cavities. How do we move forward to help with the situation? And hopefully we'll have less and less cavities. The dentist will always end the sessions by showing us good brushing habits, recommending eating less sweets, etc. You get the idea. What they don't do is tell us to go to their clinic with our own sweets, watch us eat, and the dentist will stay by our side, monitor our teeth to make sure we don't die from eating too much sweets. So most of you here have voted in favor of studying the feasibility of building this safe drugs consumption site. Have you asked yourself, what do you hope to improve for these people who are struggling? I think we all need to acknowledge and agree that people with addiction issues have their own reasons for choosing that path. We're not here to judge whether they have made a good choice, but rather we're here to achieve one goal, which is to help them. Now the question is, what is the long-term sustainable help that we can provide as a community? To me, the end goal is to let them live healthily and to be accepted into our community with a place to live and a job to sustain themselves. Is having a site where they can safely do drugs really going to help them reach this end goal? I don't think so. Having this end goal in mind will put everything into perspective. We could use the money to help them learn a trade, provide job opportunities, housing options, just to name a few. I also understand that one of the main benefits of having a supervised consumption site is that healthcare professionals can provide immediate care to this group of people with addiction issues, which then can alleviate the pressure on the healthcare system. And then have we thought about what if we spend the money on allowing the majority of Richmond citizens to have such immediate access to healthcare, which can alleviate even more pressure from healthcare workers, so they can have more time to attend to the people with addiction issues should they arise. This is just one of the many options we have out there, waiting for us to explore. Safe drugs consumption site is only one short-term remedy to this issue. We need to see explorations in other options as well. As a community, we need to find the most effective way to help this group of people within our community, without ignoring the concerns from the rest of the community. Councillor Ms. Carol Day sent me an email this afternoon saying that this motion is about consultation, 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 and consultation. I hear the emphasis on consultation, and which is why we're all here today voicing our opinions. So I hope you can really hear and respect the different opinions here before you guys make a decision, because it will impact the whole Richmond and all of our citizens here. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. The next speaker will be, I said, no, you cannot. Okay, and you can't applaud either. And if you want to applaud, go out into the plaza and applaud, if that's what you want to do. I've told you before, we are not going to have audience participation except in the most meaningful way, which is to have the people come down and share their views. And that includes people that you do not agree with as well. So, sir, you are on.
Thank you, Your Highness. My name is Kenneth Low. I'm a resident of Richmond for 32 years. Today, I would like to express my reason for opposing the establishing of so-called drug consumption sites in Richmond. But first, I would like to give you my credential and share my experience of helping addicts and their family. I have been helping at-risk youth, gangster, drug addicts, and their family for over 2 decades. I'm currently a member of a Citizen Advisory Board of Burnaby Youth Custody Center, volunteer chaplain of Richmond General Hospital. I have also served as a member of a safety community in Richmond and a member of Community Access and Action Network, an invitation by the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General of British Columbia, Victim Services and Crime Prevention Division. Last week, I have read an article from Richmond News and say the safety consumption site in Richmond will have some positive results, and they expect this site, reducing the need for people to use drugs in public space, potentially clean up our street, saving costs as each drug overdose, poisoning, and death costs money to deal with. But this is just a wish list. But the reality, I believe this is not the case. I will use some scientific data to back up my point. First, the advocate of establishing a safety injection site always say this site will save life. But the fact, this is not true. According to BC Centre of Disease Control, the number of deaths because of the overdose has increased from 183 in year 2008 to over 2,500 in 2023. One conclusion from this report, illicit drug deaths in BC higher than homicides, car crash, and suicide combined. Another report from the College of the Family Physicians of Canada, the title, Does Evidence Support Supervised Injection Site? The finding is, one overdose death was prevented annually. Spending so much money to save just one life per year, this is not acceptable. As we have 16 people die last year because of substance abuse, if based on the research from the College of the Family Physicians of Canada, do we need to open 16 more centers in Richmond to save all life? Or should we channel all this money for rehab to save their life? Moreover, if the advocates say this site will save life, the conclusion of this report tells us otherwise. There was no change in mortality in the rest of the city. That means even they save one life, but it's really insignificant. We have so many more lives die because of overdose. And research article from Harvard Law School, they estimate approximately about 5,000 injecting drug users living in downtown East Side, and 1,000 more visit the neighborhood regularly to purchase and consume drugs, plus the sex trade workers. Remember, this is only a 2015 result. This number today is much higher. Regarding the safety issues, advocates always say it will make our community safer. How about the feedback from the businessman and the resident? An article from Vancouver Sun, my staff, client, and I did not feel safe, and my kind pleas for them to leave were met with dead ears. She said, being a young woman with a small tattoo, I do not feel safe approaching a large group of men using drugs. I do not feel safe approaching a large group of using drugs for fear of retaliation on myself, my staff, and my clientele. Another article from CBC News. The condition in the Chinatown neighborhood, where the safety injection site located, has been deteriorating so much, and everyone feels scared to come down to Chinatown. If we want more people to come to Richmond, for more tourists to come to Richmond, establish a safety consumption site is not a solution. Logistic and security reason. Hospital is not the best place to help drugs user because I have seen so many health workers got injured after they help other people. Yes, they're using naloxone to help to neutralize the drugs, but at the same time, after they neutralize the drugs to help the drug user, they have been attacked. So that's why the WorkSafe BC, they have statistics how many more workers, the healthcare workers, they got injured. So because of that, my conclusion will be, I will urge all councillors to spend their energy and our tax money to do more stuff that's more urgent, like safety and of the community and rehab. Thank you. And one more question, if all the councillors, I know you receive a lot of email. If you want my research today, I can send it to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next speaker, Mi Yi Ing, and then Christine Zhao is on the line, I believe. And
Yes, I am.
And Lillian Chow is on the line? They're not. Okay, so It looks like the next speaker will be Clifton Jang. Where's Clifton Jang? Where's Clifton Jang is not here? Well, he better get in here. All right, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mei Yi-en. I live in Richmond, and personally, I'm against to the proposal of supervised consumption site. And I have a PowerPoint, and which is a hard copy for you to have a statistic, which is the overdose deaths in past 10 years, 2013 to 2023 in BC. You can see there are 6 cities in BC have the supervised consumption site, and they are contribute the most of the death of overdose. Let me summarize. For the 6 cities, there are 2,511 deaths, overdose deaths in 2023, and there are 6 cities, they have the supervised consumption site. And the total contribute is 1,336 deaths, which is 52%. For those 11 cities, including Richmond, that do not have supervised consumption site, only contribute 519 deaths, which is only 20% of the overdose death. And also, for the city that have more supervised consumption site, they are contribute more overdose death. Take Vancouver as an example. There are 4 supervised consumption sites in Vancouver, and they contribute is 644 overdose deaths in 2023. There are 25% contribution. And the next follow-up is Surrey. They have 1 supervised consumption site, and they contribute 231 deaths, overdose deaths, which is 9%. And then will be the Victoria area, which is 7%, and for Kamloops, Kelowna, and Nanaimo, they have 1 site. It is very clear that the cities have supervised consumption site will contribute the more overdose deaths. That's why we should not have consumption site, supervised consumption site in Richmond. And let me clear, in Richmond, there are only 26 overdose deaths in last year, which is only 1%. And the next page is near the Richmond Hospital. There are many daycare and elementary school. For the daycare, their age is from under 36 months to 5 years old. For the elementary school, it's 5 to 10 years old. How can a mother like me, I only have a 2-year-old child, do not worry that the supervised consumption site built near the Richmond Hospital, even in the Richmond city? How can I let my child have a better future here? Do you know how many nights I cannot sleep when I know the news? Starting from 5th of February, I have more than 3 nights cannot sleep. You do not build the site. I'm starting to suffer from the mental illness from this proposal. And I have 3 more juggling the homicide case, which the suffer also are the kids. Those cases, even one, is too much. Me as a family, as a mother, cannot bear it anymore. So, please, I hope everyone, the council member here, reconsider the proposal of not building the supervised consumption site here in Richmond. Please hear our voice. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next speaker is Christine Zhao, who is on Zoom. And is Rachel Mew or Lillian Chow either here or online? Okay, come forward, please. You'll be the next speaker after, no, stand right over there. And because we have the next speaker online. And then Lillian Chow, is she here? Sorry, by the door. Please come forward and stand behind this lady. Okay, go ahead, Christine Zhao.
Thank you. Dear Mayor and members of Richmond City Council, my name is Christine. I'm a Richmond resident and the mother of young school-age children. Along with my family, friends, neighbors, and colleagues living in the city, I want to express our strong opposition to the proposed consultation plan for a safe drug consumption site in Richmond. While we understand the intention behind providing a space for drug users to consume drugs safely, we are deeply concerned that such a facility would pose significant risk to the safety, well-being, and overall quality of life for our residents. The impact is especially concerning for our children, as there are 8 schools and many community programs around the proposed safe drug consumption site. There's a petition that has over 18,000 signatures now to voice against this proposal, and the numbers are growing quickly every day as more people are becoming aware of what is going on. Proposing safe drug consumption site in Richmond convey an implicit acceptance of harmful drug use and worsen an already alarming drug abuse problem in many parts of Lower Mainland. Let's look at our safety stats. Richmond crime rates are 31% higher than the national average, and we continue to see high numbers of crimes, particularly in robbery and theft within our city. And I can speak from my own experience. Many homes in our neighborhood, including my own, were victims of crimes over the past year. Despite of our active effort in neighborhood block watch, adopting various safety practices, and filing for police cases. From the block watch conversations, we hear a growing frustration and helplessness amongst our neighbors, and that many of us no longer feel safe in our own home and streets. These crimes not only threaten the safety of individuals and families, but also undermine the sense of security and trust within our community. Introducing a safe drug injection site in Richmond would only aggravate these challenges and further strain our already burdened law enforcement and medical resources. For example, in Calgary, crime rates in the downtown Belline district have skyrocketed since the safe injection site opened in 2018. Violence in the area is up nearly 50%. Vehicle crimes has increased 63%. The number of break and enters has jumped by more than 60%. And the number of calls to the police was up 36% in 2018 compared to the previous year, according to their police data. In addition, the increase in crimes, needles, and public disorder in the city center area since the opening of temporary modular housing further underscores the potential negative impact of establishing a drug consumption site in Richmond. If these drug consumption sites are truly effective, we should be witnessing a decline in overdose and not an increase. Stats from BCEHS shows a staggering 25% increase of overdose number year over year in BC, now just over 42,000 cases in 2023. Most of this increase, though, came from the Vancouver area, which has safe injection site. And Richmond is far from being on the list and doesn't have the density of people using the drugs, and has very low overdose case compared to many other areas in Lower Mainland. Why is there a rush to propose a safe drug consumption site when our tax money can be spent in other crucial areas, such as better local law enforcement? Our current safety and crime issues in the city is not addressed effectively. Why are we proposing something that will aggravate the situation? Is there conflict of interest issues that need to be disclosed to the public because we expect transparency and accountability in the public office, especially from our representative who's supposed to represent our voice? The acts of disregarding the long-term interests of Richmond community really make us wonder whether your actions are tainted by hidden political agenda and personal interest. Moreover, I'm deeply troubled by Tara Riley's recent article published in the National Post. The article is called Harm Reduction Gone Rogue. I worked at a safe injection site and it was disturbing. For me, this was extremely eye-opening. Tara Riley shares her first-hand experience working at a safe injection site, revealing the dark reality that contradicts the noble intention of harm reduction initiatives. Rather than providing the anticipated support to those struggling with addiction, Riley found herself consumed in a chaotic environment filled with drug dealing, colleague overdoses.
Okay, unfortunately, that speaker ran out of time. So please, if you can monitor the speaker, you can look at the monitor and find out how long you've got left, but at 5 minutes, it will be cut off. And we're doing that because there's so many speakers. Okay, we've got Rachel Mew, then Lillian Chow, that's you, and Clifton Jang. He is apparently, I think he's here now. Okay, if you could stand behind the lady in the turquoise. Okay, go ahead.
Honorable members of the Richmond City Council, I am here today not only as a concerned citizen, but also as a parent deeply troubled by the direction the beautiful British Columbia has been taking to fight the drug issue. While it takes just half an hour to travel from Richmond to Chinatown, my 2 children have long refused to go there anymore because none of us feels safe. We all fear for our own safety. In fact, my children, my family, and my friends have tried to avoid the downtown area altogether, as it has been distressing and heartbreaking to see people stumbling about, unable to even stand up straight, and their dignity completely stripped away by addiction. Even when we walk down just 1 block in downtown, we would inevitably smell the stench of drugs and feel sick from it. And yet me and my children, we dare not even cover our nose for fear of drawing attention to ourselves and risking confrontation with those whose mental state may have been adversely affected by the drugs. And that's how pathetic it has been. There was a time when we were about to go to a restaurant on Granville in downtown. 3 people were lying at the shop front, bodies twisted, one of them motionless. I quickly decided to go somewhere else because it felt unsafe. I knew even if we passed through the door fine, we would have been worried and anxious for the rest of the dinner. My 10-year-old asked me after we rushed back to our car, "Mom, I feel sorry for those homeless, and I feel equally sorry for the restaurant owner and the landlord. How are these people going to survive? How are the businesses ever going to survive?" Her questions rightly tell us how the current focus on just harm reduction has failed all of us in here, including the drug users, business owners, families and children, as well as all taxpayers. The Safe Consumption site on Hastings has been running for more than 20 years by now, with millions and millions of dollars pouring into opening up similar services throughout the entire province. However, illicit drug death toll in BC alone has doubled in the last 8 years to more than 6 deaths a day currently. Drug toxicity is the leading cause of death for people aged 10 to 59 in BC, higher than homicides, suicides, accidents, and natural diseases all combined. Harm reduction measures such as consumption sites not only fail to keep up with how much more toxic and affordable street drugs have become these days, but also devastated the neighboring communities, destroying the hard-earned livings of thousands of residents and businesses. The drug policy of Canada is failing because the focus has been overwhelmingly on harm reduction only, with all these other 3 critical pillars, i.e. prevention, enforcement, and treatment, completely falling apart. Richmond City Council should seek for a holistic evaluation of these safe consumption sites, which I do not agree with the name, before even attempting to ever discuss, let alone to cast a vote on it. How many SCS visitors have been able to quit drug at the end and how long it has taken them, for example. Where did they buy the illicit drugs from? In what neighborhood? How far is that from the center? How did they finance themselves? Any criminal offense in the process of financing themselves to buy illicit drugs on the streets? Those who lost their lives due to overdose, how many of them are actually frequent users of these consumption sites? Have we ever given a voice to the neighbors of these consumption sites, in particular Chinatown people? How have their lives been affected because of the site? And how are we planning to rightly step up the prevention, enforcement, and treatment to truly address the drug issues? A responsible councillor would do all they can to stop any discussion on opening just another site until all of the above can be fully addressed.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, the next speaker is Lillian Chow, then Clifton Jang, and the third speaker is Caden Poe. Caden? All right, if you want to wait over there, go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for letting me talk today. I'm a mom living in Richmond, and I want to share my worries about the ideas starting the SCS here. I know drugs are a big problem. They can hurt people's body and minds, especially young folks whose brains are still growing. It's so scary how once someone starts using drugs, it can be super hard to stop. The idea of having a place where people can use drugs safely might come from a good place, but I don't think this is the right solution. As a mom, after hearing this news, it brought me a few nights of sleepless nights. My biggest job as a mom, I think, is to keep my kids and my community safe. I believe that we all want to live here safe and peacefully. I would like to have a place for safe drug. If having a place for safe drug use might actually make more young people curious about trying drugs. It's like saying it's okay to use drugs because there's a safe place to do that. It gives a really misleading message to people. It could lead them to underestimate the harm from drugs. That's not the message we want to give to our kids. Instead of making it easier for people to use drugs, we should be helping them to stop using drugs for good. We need programs that help people get over their drug problems, but not just places where they can use drugs without getting into trouble. Building the drug site, making taking drugs sound so safe, would even encourage people who are still hesitating to take drugs right away. I think it doesn't make great sense in teaching people how to take drugs. Putting a drug use site at a hospital seems really backwards to me as well. Hospitals are supposed to help people get better, not offer a spot where it's okay to do something that's harmful to them. This could also make more work for our doctors, nurses, and make the hospital a place where people feel okay about using drugs. Crime rates will rise. It would also attract some drug dealers to be around, selling drugs, and drug addicts around. As a mom, I stand up to speak for protecting our kids. I would like to help to speak up to prevent our living place turning into a dangerous one. In short, I really believe that we should focus on stopping drug use, not making sounds that taking drugs is so safe. We should put our money and effort into teaching people about the dangers of drugs and helping those who are already using drugs to get better. This way, we are working towards a future where our kids are safer and the people who have drug problems get the help they need to recover. I hope that we really will not give the drug addict a false hope. Taking drugs at a supervised drug site is safe. It is actually what they want. This is actually not what they want. We hope that we can really give them some good hope to go forward, to get the help that they could really need. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. The next speaker is Clifton Jang, then Caden Poe and David Byers. Is David Byers here? All right, if you could be ready to go after the gentleman over here. Yes, sir?
All right, thank you, City Council. Well, we all know that you guys are going to go ahead and put this plan in place. We all know that. So if you're going to do that, I think what the residents of Richmond really want is for you guys to acknowledge that there has to be a safety plan in place to the surrounding neighborhood to mitigate the damages that you guys are going to inflict upon this area, okay? We know that negative effects are going to come. The best predictor of any future behavior is past behavior, and we've seen this. The city of Nanaimo has closed their safe consumption site. They deemed it a nuisance site. Vancouver is shutting down one of theirs, and ostensibly it's because of safety concerns. So we know that these issues are going to happen. We've seen these issues in our neighborhood, actually. I live in Alderbridge and Westminster. You guys are all familiar with my emails for the past 5 years. You guys put in a modular home, okay? And that modular home has been nothing but problems. It's essentially a miniature safe injection site, and you guys all know that. And now you're proposing a full-blown injection site, which is going to amplify the problems to this area, or any area that it gets put into. Since that modular home has been here in 2019, we have seen, and I've sent you guys videos of this over 5 years, we have seen their residents and their guests doing drugs on our property, doing drug deals on our property. We videotaped them damaging our property, breaking into our property, passed out because of drugs on our property. That is verified residents from the modular home. We know for a fact, 5 years of evidence says that these facilities will bring these issues. I have an email from Ed Wurzel. He's a police services manager. He said to me, quote, "This modular housing site is well known to our frontline officers. Considerable resources have been and continue to be deployed to address these community concerns. Yet you guys as a city council have done nothing for 5 years, nothing to address the safety concerns that the residents in this area and the businesses in this area have been telling you about. We have been showing you proof of it. Malcolm Brody, on the November 6, 2023 meeting, you actually cut off a video saying that it was outrageous. Yet you expect the residents and the businesses to deal with this on a daily basis for the past 5 years, plus another 3.5 years on a renewal, plus whatever and however many years you put a safe consumption site in here. That's pretty hypocritical that you don't want to see it on your screens, but you expect the businesses and the residents to put up with that stuff. During that same meeting, Bill McNulty, you said, quote, "We need to mitigate some of the issues," close quote. Carol Day, you said, quote, "If you watch the videos, you'll think it's a war zone over there," close quote. Kash Heed, my buddy from the gym, you are former VPD. You are former Chief Constable of West Van Police and former Solicitor General. As a Solicitor General, part of your job is crime prevention, right? This is your initiative, but nowhere in this plan have you or the City Council addressed safety. Nowhere have you guys addressed what plan you guys will have to mitigate the damages we know are going to come. We have proved that they have come from the modular home, which is a miniature safe site injection or safe injection site. We know that these problems will come because we've seen it from other sites. Cash, you stated at that meeting, quote, "I have some empathy for the people that live in that particular area because I don't think we've done a good job of engaging them. And I don't think we've done a great job of ensuring that we have the resources there so that they don't have to deal with these people or suffer from some of the consequences of the disorderly conduct in those public spaces. So I'm hoping as we go forward for the next 3.5 years that we start to look at the other amenities to ensure that we can get this out of the public eye, whether it's drug consumption or something of that nature due to their addiction problem or their mental health issues," close quote. Cash, this is your initiative. You have to do your job. City Council, every one of you that voted for this, you have to do your jobs too, because we are all residents of Richmond. You work for us. You have to have a plan in place, and you have to publish that plan publicly so every resident of Richmond knows you guys are doing something about it, because for the past 5 years, you have basically swept it under the rug. You have swept it under the rug what is happening at the modular home and the problems that they cause. Cash, do your job instead of whining to the media that you're getting abusive emails sent to you, okay? Thank you, Council.
Listen, what don't you understand about no applause? What don't you understand? Do I have to say it again? Right. We are going to hear from this speaker now. This should be Caden Poe, then David Byers, and Mimi Vong is after that. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Richmond councillors. Today, I'd like to use my time to talk about a widely circulating online survey that has gathered over 1,000 responses in just the last 3 days. I believe Sheldon Starrett will present the survey findings in detail later, but I've had the chance to read through every single response, and I think it's necessary that the council does so as well, because there's a wealth of rich lived experience and expertise in there. At this point, the City of Richmond has not conducted any community consultation project or survey on this matter. In fact, most of Richmond only had the chance to learn about the proposed consumption site after the motion was passed. This does not make any sense, considering that the city is happy to spend time and resources consulting on topics of significantly less public interest and importance. For example, just on Friday, while all this is happening, we received this card in the mail from the city asking everyone to do a survey. It says, "Shaping the future of Richmond Public Library starts with you." So why can we shape our future for things like the library, but we're not allowed to shape our future for issues that matter the most, like public safety and health policy? One of the items in the motion I also oppose is about directing city resources to dispel misconceptions and to re-educate people who oppose the consumption site. I think the actual serious misconceptions are held against people who oppose the consumption site. For instance, it said that people opposing the site are heartless and they don't care about those who need help. This survey disproves this completely. You can see that the top requests are for treatment, rehabilitation, and recovery. And they disagree not because they don't want to save lives, but because they don't agree that the evidence show that consumption sites are effective in saving lives at all. Another misconception is NIMBYism. If you read the responses, you will also struggle to find NIMBYism. It doesn't even come close to the top 10 or 20 topics. In the survey, you'll also find some of the most thoughtful and compassionate comments that want the best for those that need help. I cannot see how it's fair to Richmond if you are voting today without reading the responses. There's another misconception that it's mainly unassimilated Chinese people who can't speak English, who don't know any better, and that's why they're opposing. This is simply not true. If you look at the survey, 80% completed the survey in English. The survey shows that the vast majority of Richmond residents, over 90%, regardless of their background, reject the consumption site. Many of them are frontline community workers, healthcare providers, law enforcement who actually have boots on the ground. But they're not going to tell you in person that they object to this. So I'm going to end by reading a very honest and insightful survey response from one of these people. I have an extensive background in law enforcement, and before that, working with homeless people in shelters. The safe injection sites will do nothing other than populate the area with drug users, which will make our city streets more dangerous, dirtier, and will most definitely increase crime. I have seen this time and time again where properties in close proximity to injection sites have become hotspots for crime. This also adds to the already under-resourced police and emergency health services. Furthermore, drug addicts are not ones to follow rules. They will continue to use drugs around the area. Parks will be littered with used needles, drug paraphernalia, and other homeless encampments. The city will see a rise in drug dealers as they now know their clients will be around these sites. We will see higher rates of violence as drug dealers have no regard for public safety. Drug users will do what is necessary to have their fix, therefore more personal robberies and break-ins will occur. Drug users who are high off methamphetamines, fentanyl, crack, or a combination tend to go into drug psychosis, causing them to be extremely unpredictable and violent. Drug users will set up encampments in nearby parks that are used by children and other citizens alike. These issues will continue to grow until our city parks become another Crab Park or Oppenheimer Park. These camps are an extreme safety concern where further drug use is done, stolen goods are sold and traded, guns and other weapons are stashed, and a breeding ground for other criminal activity like sexual assault and assaults with weapons. Not to mention, they are an extreme fire hazard as these camps regularly go up in flames. All of this I am stating is what I have personally observed on the job as a law enforcement officer. The drug epidemic is an issue, but having a safe injection site in the city of Richmond is not the answer. These injection sites are simply a short-term band-aid solution which ultimately does not solve the issue and puts citizens in Richmond at risk. Thank you.
All right, the next speaker is David Byers, followed by Mimi Vong. Where is she gone? Okay, if you could wait there. And after Mimi is Sheldon Sterrett. Sheldon is here? Sheldon is here somewhere? Okay, if you could wait over here, Sheldon. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is David Byers, and I am grateful to be speaking to you again. I am a provincial coordinator for a drug checking project at the BC Centre on Substance Use, working with the researchers who validated the safety and effectiveness of Insight from its inception and spoke at the Supreme Court on their behalf. Though I am not speaking on behalf of the BC Centre on Substance Use today. I have also previously worked for Vancouver Coastal Health as a drug checking technician at Insight and around overdose prevention sites on the downtown east side. What I can tell you for certain is that the concerns of the downtown east side are different than those of Richmond, and the Richmond supervised consumption site will not be Insight. However, what I can also assure you is that the evidence is clear. Supervised consumption sites, such as Insight, such as those in Australia, such as those across the country, are safe and effective. I also remind everyone that the city is merely asking for staff to investigate the possibility of an SES and to discuss it with Vancouver Coastal Health. This is a Vancouver Coastal Health decision at the end of the day. Those are people that I work with and I trust wholeheartedly to make the responsible and appropriate decision, not the people who are responding in fear today. I also believe that despite what others may say, 26 deaths in Richmond is far too many. While I can speak to personal anecdotes and stories from time working in supervised consumption and overdose prevention sites, what I will do today is dispel myths. First, claims have been made that opening a supervised consumption site will increase drug use. This is the same fear that people shared when naloxone was first being made available. The research showed for naloxone and for supervised consumption sites that there was no effect on the rates of substance use in any area. Secondly, there is a concern that supervised consumption sites will attract people to Richmond from other parts of the city or other cities and the downtown east side. This is frankly ridiculous. People will not be commuting from the downtown east side to Richmond Hospital when there are safe injection sites on their block. What I believe is most important in this conversation, though, is that people who use drugs are people in our communities. You cannot tell who they are by their look, by their behavior, or any visible measure. It is most likely that at some point in your day-to-day you interacted with a person who uses drugs, whether recreationally or who lives in addiction. People who use drugs are equally deserving of our time and our care, our compassion, and our love as a community. Unfortunately, today and across the past week, they have been painted as dangerous, they have been painted as criminals and harmful people to our community. However, they are integral members in our community. They are people that I am lucky to call my friends and my family. Regardless of anyone's identity, background, education, housing status, they may use drugs, and they likely will at some point in their lives. Using drugs is a part of the human experience, and it has been from the beginning of time. We are never going to stop that fact. However, those people deserve to be able to stay alive. People today have discussed that the death rates have increased over the last years, and I can assure you that is not from the opening of supervised consumption sites. In fact, Insight has been open for 20 years, had over 3.6 million visits, and not one single death. There has been no deaths in a supervised consumption site in Canada since their inception. None. 57% of people that entered Insight have also accessed addiction treatment. Supervised consumption sites allow connection with medical professionals and allow access to detox and addiction treatment services. While it is true, a supervised consumption site does not exist in a vacuum, and it is a part of continuum of care. And so, yes, we must also provide other services alongside a supervised consumption site. However, dead people cannot access addiction treatment. Dead people cannot access detox, and it is important that we give them the opportunity to do so. I can assure you that the part of the reason that the deaths continue to rise is that the drug supply continues to become increasingly toxic. If you look at the data that I review on a daily basis for work, the benzodiazepine rates increase, xylazine increases, other novel and synthetic opioids continue to appear in our drug supply. That contributes to the risk of death. It is not that the supervised consumption sites are what is killing people. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next speaker is Mimi Vong, then Sheldon Starrett, and Ng Su, S-I-U. Is that person here? You? Okay, Sheldon, if you could wait over there, and you could wait over there as well, please. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for the councillors and every mayor's time. I'm a Canadian citizen, but I also live in San Francisco, New York, Washington, D.C. And so I think that my colleagues today has already provided a solid proven statistics and saying that like this kind of safe consumption sites is not effective from a business point of view, from like taxpayer point of view, and even from a social point of view. So I think that like my colleagues has already provides enough data. But what I want to highlight is that like I want to all of you explore that what kind of options we have. I think that we need to find out the root problems. Everyone has a choice about whether they want to consume recreation drugs or not. This is the law of Canada. But it's not our choice and it's not our responsibilities to cleaning after them if they actually have lethal drugs problems. What we really want to do is that we want to educate them and stop having drugs in the first place. If they cannot control that this is just recreational drugs, and then they know that it's a lethal drugs problems, then they should actually aware about these problems. And I feel sorry for the parents or also friends that they actually feel sorry about their family and friends that because of the overdose that they have people die. This is not the problems. They should not feel guilty and finding a remedy just to think that this is right. What they really want to do is that we really want to see that how can we support and cultivate our future generations to understand that drugs is not acceptable. If they decided to want to do that recreational, then they need to live up the consequence. This is called accountability. Like all of you here, it's accountable for all the voters here for City of Richmond. And I hope that you guys remember that we support you guys to make the right choices for City of Richmond for the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next speaker is Sheldon Starrett. Then we have Ng Su. And is Mimi Cheng here? Is Mimi Cheng here? Okay, maybe not. Oh, no, sir. Give it to the clerk who will distribute it.
Hello? Hello?
Right now, the speaker is Sheldon Starrett.
Oh, Your Worship, councillors, I am here to speak on behalf of survey respondents who conducted a survey here in the city of Richmond following the petition that went out following the committee decision last week. In 3 days, we received over 1,000 respondents. 93% of these respondents live in Richmond. We tracked it by postal code. 80% of the survey was completed in English, although there was the option to complete the survey in Chinese. The survey results show that 96% of the respondents strongly disagree with the establishment of a consumption site in the city of Richmond. 89% strongly agree that the site will worsen public safety. 87% strongly disagree that the site will decrease overdose deaths. Only 4% of respondents are satisfied with the level of community consultation on this issue. Now, the responses were kind of grouped into 10 categories. The category that received the most responses was 1, worsen public safety and crime, followed by Vancouver failed, inadequate evidence. Number 3 was the prioritized treatment and rehab. Many people in the community are not saying that these people do not need help. They do need help. And many of the community members here support treatment centers and rehabilitation and detoxification. There's always talk of opening more consumption sites before we do treatment, but no one ever talks on treatment. We can't just be relying on one pillar of the 4 pillars approach. We do need treatment so that these people can rehabilitate and improve their lives. The 4th category was inadequate community consultation, also under the City Council incompetent category. Number 5 was normalizes, encourages drug use. Number 6, negatively impacts children and youth. Number 7, burdens system, city resources, and the economy. Number 8, drug use is inherently unsafe. Number 9, prioritize prevention and education. And number 10, failure of the Alder Bridge temporary modular housing. So this survey has more than about 140, 150 pages in it. And we've collected the comments of residents here in Richmond so that you can all read what they have to say. Many of these respondents are not here tonight, so they hope that you will listen to what they have to say. They want better consultation on this issue. And even though this may be a decision of Vancouver Coastal Health Authority to decide upon, Vancouver Coastal Health Authority did not advocate for a consumption site in Richmond. I believe Dr. Dawar was saying that given the overdose death rate in Richmond, it's not a priority for Vancouver Coastal Health. But City Council still has opened the door to invite Vancouver Coastal Health to that. And I think a lot of residents here feel it was just sprung upon them. And they would like to encourage City Council to think carefully on how the best way to deal with the drug overdose problem is in Richmond going forward. One comment that came up a lot was that there's many supervised consumption sites in Vancouver. Many have been added over the years, over the last 20 years since Insight first went up. And despite the proliferation of supervised consumption sites, we are still seeing a proliferation of overdose deaths. So why are so many people overdosing and dying and not using supervised consumption sites? This is a hard question we're going to have to ask ourselves if this is the right solution, considering many of the problems that do surround supervised consumption sites in neighborhoods where they operate. Also in Richmond, our modular homes do have consumption sites in them. We don't know if they're supervised. We don't know much about how these sites are run, but we do know there was overdose deaths in these modular homes with consumption sites, and we should be asking questions about why that happened. Thank you for your time, Council and your worship.
All right, thank you. Ying Su, then Mimi Chang. Is Mimi here today? Okay, please come over here and be ready. And then Dickens Chung. Okay, please, if you could go over here and be ready. Yes.
Honor the mayor and all the.
Please, you have to pull in the microphone right close.
Okay. Hello. Okay. Thank you for the time. I think we have the speaker already mentioned the safe.
Just get right in there.
Okay.
That's better.
Okay, thank you for your time. I believe there's some of the speakers already mentioned safe consumption sites in Vancouver. And yes, Vancouver has many safe consumption sites, but more people are still dying each year in Vancouver. If these sites really save lives, why are people not using them and overdose deaths are still going up? And in fact, there's no clear data to show how the effectiveness of the safe consumption sites. Many of them, drug addicts, still suffer from drug addiction. They can't go back home, they can't go back to normal life. So if we tell them safe consumption sites will save their life, it seems it's not true. There's a study also described the people using safe consumption sites. We let them inject more because they found this is a safe place for them. That means safe consumption sites will continue to poison those people, although we are keeping them still alive. But they still can go back to normal life. They still suffer from pain. Their soul, their mind, their body is all harmful and all poisonous by the drug. For the safe consumption sites, we know the drug user can bring their pre-obtained drug to the safe consumption site to check. So we know it definitely will encourage drug dealers to set up their sales enrichment and promoting opioid substance enrichment, which directly impact to our society and harmful to our kids and our next generation. We will not find Richmond is a safe place anymore. So, as I'm a mother and I'm also a daughter, I'm also a daughter of my parents. They are all senior. They're over 70 years old. They like Richmond so much. They find Richmond is a safe place. We cannot take risks to have a safe consumption site built in nearby the Richmond Hospital if there's something happen to them. So, at last, I strongly disagree to have a safe consumption site to build in Richmond because it will not save their life. It's just prolonging their pain. It just keep harmful their body. Thank you for your time.
All right, the next speaker is Mimi Chang, then Dickens Chung, and Gady C. Is Gady here?
Good evening, everyone. Drugs are drugs. There is no such thing as safe hard drugs, and they all affect your mental and physical health in a very negative way. The government should not discriminate any sort of hard substance that harm the body, mind, and soul of its citizens and residents. The Conservative Party leader, Pierre, is also against the idea of a supervised consumption site, and said that the focus should be recovery programs. I agree that in order to truly save lives, we must provide drug addicts resources to help them recover from their addictions, and not to further feed their addictions by giving them so-called safe drugs and push them further into despair. Dr. Bonnie Harry also stated that since the establishment of this super consumption sites in Vancouver about 20 years ago, the number of deaths from drug overdose has only gone up and not down. This brings the effectiveness of this site into question. If there are any councillors here that will be voting for the establishment of this super consumption sites, and later on it is discovered that there are any conflict of interest, whether directly or indirectly, then it will be a very serious matter, and probably a criminal investigation will have to be conducted. Councillors should not forget their position as public servants, not overlords. You are representing the views and interests of over 200,000 residents of Richmond, not your own ideologies or agendas. You are here to listen to us, and not the other way around. When there are tens of thousands of people who are clearly against this idea of the supervised consumption sites, and you still push your motion forward without pausing to consider a public consultation, then it is clear that you are disregarding the voice of the people of Richmond. Councillors should also consider very careful that if you choose to vote in favor of the super consumption sites, in opposition to the view of tens of thousands of Richmond residents, then know that this same Richmond residents will use whatever time and resources that they have to make known to the rest of the Richmond residents what you have done to bring more drug users and more crime into our community. This issue has already caught the attention of the international community. There is more than 2 years' time for this information to be spread out. Since this is now an international issue, so no matter which way the vote goes, there will be further investigation and sanctity by the tens of thousands of citizens of Richmond and overseas nationals who have personal interest in Richmond. If any councillor here are simply voting because you are towing your party line, then I strongly advise you to seriously reconsider your stance, because if any political trouble comes out of this, your party will not save you. The history books will judge you for your participation in the destruction of the social and moral fabrics of this beautiful city of Richmond by condoning the use of hard drugs and further encouraging it through this supervised consumption sites. Thank you so much.
All right, the next speaker is Dickens Chung. And after that, we have online Gady C. and Tommy Wan. Is Tommy here? Okay, if you could come on over here and be ready, please. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Brody, Richmond City Councillors, fellow Richmond residents and guests. My name is Dickens Chung, and I've been a resident of Richmond for 16 years, since 2008. And our herbal tea manufacturing business operations have been in the Ironwood area of Richmond for 19 years, since 2005. I'm a blessed father of 4 beautiful children, all of whom were born in Richmond. Richmond is a place we call home, and we love the city and its people. It's a privilege and honor for me to be here this evening to share with everyone my thoughts on this particular issue. I want to start off by thanking and acknowledging the First Peoples of the Musqueam Nation, those who identify with the Hunkimunim language group on whose traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories we live, learn, and prosper on. I also want to acknowledge the 2,511 souls in BC who have succumbed to the vice of drug addiction in 2023. And the more than 10,000 souls in BC who have succumbed to the same in the past 10 years. I'm very sympathetic to the friends and family of those deceased. We must all tackle this drug problem as a community and prevent any more tragedies from happening. I believe that this takes great political will, as well as the collective will of the people, and we must tackle this vice at its root, which is the ease of availability of these hard drugs in Canada. The issue of establishing a supervised consumption site in the municipality of Richmond is a matter of great consequence, potentially affecting approximately 210,000 Richmond residents. So I'm actually very surprised that this entire process has been moving forward so quickly in a matter of just 1 week and without proper public consultation. In contrast, I received an information card in the mail just last week from the Richmond Public Library. I'm not sure if you guys received it. And they were looking to engage the community as part of its 2024-2028 strategic planning process. They gave us 4 weeks to provide our feedback and suggestions. I think this is the proper way to engage our community, to get as many of the 210,000 residents of Richmond involved as possible. In the spirit of cooperation and respect, I strongly and firmly suggest that the Richmond Council make a motion to properly engage the community in this matter by initiating a public consultation, lasting a minimum of 8 weeks, where the tens of thousands of Richmond households can provide their feedback and input on this. The City of Richmond can simply just mail an information card like the one the Richmond Public Library did, and we'll all get that and we can all get involved. Continuing on with this point regarding the suggestion for a more comprehensive public consultation, I would like to quote Councillor Kash Heed to bring to memory his goodwill and commitment to the people of Richmond. When he was elected in council on October 16, 2022, he was interviewed by Richmond News. He said, I think we've reached the council now where I don't think business is going to be the same anymore. It's going to be a lot different. It says Heed would like to see residents and businesses consulted more to guide city council's policies rather than city staff saying how things should be run. And I quote again, we're elected by these constituents. We need to listen to them and we need to set policy and expect staff to deliver on that policy, Councillor Heed said. So thank you, Councillor Heed, for your initial goodwill and commitment to the people of Richmond upon your successful election. Now, but here's something a little bit I find a little bit concerning, because I came across something that Councillor Heed said in May of 2023 that goes against this initial goodwill and commitment to the people of Richmond. He said during a special general purpose committee on May 23rd, 2023, I'm not influenced by the letter writing campaign. I don't like letter writing campaigns. As a matter of fact, I'll be happy to say most of them are just glanced over. So I truly hope that you, nor any of the Richmond councillors, nor Mayor Brody will just simply glance over any petitions or any letters written to you by Richmond residents that we put hours and hours and our heart and soul into, because this is our voice and we deserve to be heard. Another matter that I would like to get into is a timeline that I think you might all have on hand. I don't have much time, but I'll go quickly. It is a little bit concerning, so I hope you all look into this. In October 2022, Councillor Kash Heed was elected as a City Richmond Council member. In February 13th, 2023, Lucy Scientific Discovery announced its closing of its $7.5 million initial public offering. February 16th, they filed an amendment with Health Canada to expand its list of controlled substances. And then on March 29th, Lucy Scientific Discovery appoints him as a special advisor. So that's something that we should all look into.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We'll call on the next speaker, who is Gady C. Is Gady online? All right,
yes.
Just a minute. Just a minute. For that last gentleman who spoke and anybody else, if a counselor has a conflict, it is up to that counselor to declare the conflict and act accordingly. And so whether there's a presence of a conflict or not is totally in the hands of that one person. So we'll go to Gady C, and then Tommy Wan is there, and Philip Law. Is Philip Law here? Philip Law. Okay, just if you could just go over there and wait. You'll be the third speaker. So Gady C.
Dear City Council, my name is Gadi C. And I address you today not as a concerned resident, but as a devoted mother
Please
who
turn
has
on
called.
your video. Please turn on your video. Gadi C, please turn on your video.
Sorry, I'm trying to turn on the radio. Can you just give me a minute?
Okay, we're going to go to Tommy Wan. Come forward, sir.
I've been living in Richmond for over 30 years. As a resident of Richmond, I personally feel compassion to people with drug addiction and really want to help them, of course, with my limited ability, to kick their addiction and relive normal, respectful life. There's a common sense to treat addiction in general. For example, for Alcohol Anonymous program, people are restricted to drink alcohol instead of keep feeding them wine. For quit smoking program, people are restricted to smoke instead of keep feeding them cigarette. For Weight Watching program, people are limited to access food instead of keep feeding them food. Gambling quitting program, people are banned to access casino instead of keep them getting there. However, for drug control program, we are not using the same common sense. So people are continuous to feed drugs. Why? I don't think it's common sense at all. We've been promoting 4-pillar drug policy: prevention, treatment, harm reduction, enforcement. Out of the 4 pillars, only one is practicing harm reduction. What happened to the other 3 pillars? Are they dead? Why they are not using it? I would consider harm reduction is just a band-aid solution. So only 25% effective out of the 4. So I have a few questions to ask, particularly for why we pick Richmond to have this drug consumption site or safe drug consumption site. So how many Richmond residents use this service? I mean, we don't know. We need to get the answer. So for City of Richmond, did we conduct any research to have any specific figure that reflect the need to have local injection clinic in Richmond? What criteria do the city use, and based on the injection population, to locate the injection site? What standard do other communities use, or other municipalities use? Why should the injection clinic locate in Richmond? Finally, myself and my family strongly oppose the Richmond city government and councillor rush to build a safe injection site in Richmond without conducting large-scale public consultation. There's a violation of the public and also to the next generation. It does not help the drug user to detoxify and kick the addiction, to help them to regain healthy body, to live a respectful life, but it leaves them to die spirally, but leave them to have a steady spiral to deeper addiction, eventually lead them to deeper addiction and even to death. Thank you for listening to me.
All right, the next speaker is Philip Law. Philip Law. Then Cecilia Fung. Is Cecilia here? Is Cecilia Fung here? Don't see her. Eric Zhang. Eric Zhang. Okay, if you could be ready to go, please. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Good evening, dear councillors and mayor. My name is Philip Law. I was a social worker, addiction social worker with Vancouver Coastal Health at the Vancouver Detox. I've been working this position for 21 years. So tonight I want to share my observation and experience about what I see the supervised consumption site, or SCS. I retired last year, so I'm now speaking for myself, nothing to do with Vancouver Coastal Health. Every day when I went back to work, I would see some new patients, first timer or repeater clients. For the repeater people, I don't know what to say to them. Should I welcome them? Welcome back. Or what happened to you again? You were here not too long ago. Why? Of course, I seldom say that because that would make them so embarrassed. For the new people, newcomer, on one side, I will say really sad to see him or her coming to seek help. But on the other side, I feel that's great that you are still making a decision to come here. I can see people with addiction issue and ending up into detox is a very traumatic, at the very bottom and very don't know where to go. Most of them, they were homeless, lack of social support, family support. What I see, the real service to help them to stay away from drugs or addiction issues, it would be to help them stay away, not using anymore ultimately. But of course, in the meantime, I understand there are some people they've been using for a long time with chronic illness, whatever, they have to on it temporarily. That's what we call the harm reduction. We give them some substitute, like methadone, Suboxone. However, after so many years in the same position, I must say, addiction issue is very complicated, and there's no simple answer to it. And to help a person to change the habit, it's not just a change of habit, it's change of life, which is more complicated. So what I want to say is, why not we can help the people get out of the cycle of revolving door, or the drug use, they stay detox, stay clean outside for a bit, and then back to use again, and then back to detox. And that kind of cycle, repeat and repeat. That's why we see a lot of people in downtown Eastside or somewhere else. So I can see tonight's topic, the supervised consumption site, is part of the harm reduction policy or approaches. Harm reduction is to help people to reduce the negative consequences rather than eliminating them to use. Don't get me wrong, I don't mean to object to it. To some point, I really agree with some chronic clients, some with heavy user. They need to be on this approach to keep the life. I agree with that. But I don't agree with the other side. If we just focus on the harm reduction without doing the treatment, without doing the support recovery, more than that is the housing, is the job training, is the helping them to get a job, and social support and the community support. We can encourage more volunteers to welcome them back, not to reject them. But over the years, I seldom see such things happen. There may be a small scale in the community. And I would say harm reduction, sometimes when we overemphasize, is too much overemphasized with 4 major misconceptions. One, now the drug is legal. When we talk about legal, means okay to do it. When we park to a place, when it says no, it's not legal. When there's nothing say means legal, means I can do it. Drug using seems to be legal.
All right, thank you. You're out of time, sir. I'm going to go to Cecilia Fung on Zoom. Eric Zhang is here, and then we'll go back to Gaddy C, who apparently has fixed her video problems. So Cecilia Fung on Zoom.
Hello? Hello, did you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. I have been a resident in Richmond for over 20 years. Lately, I have been diagnosed with breast cancer. My family doctor in Richmond had to send me to Mount St. Joseph Hospital to see treatments. Total 3 trips I need to go out of the cities with someone like me who is a disability person, spending hours to take traffic, spending money, taking taxi is a disappointment. What I want to say is we need to focus diligently on how to use Richmond General Hospital with its limited capacity. Residents in Richmond, not only like me, are also sent to different hospitals for different treatment, which is not necessarily if the hospital is able to be large enough to cater those aging population in need. We need to see more hospital beds for the sick, long-term care facility, more operation room with MRI and CT scans increased, specialist residents in the hospital. This is what I want to see. And with the number of deaths due to overdose in Richmond last year was 25, with compared to the official announced number of 110 drug users, this is way low to take any right immediate action until we reach to 1% as far as my personal opinion. So we better focus on more, use more of our resources wisely. There are so far no consumption sites located inside VGH, Surrey Memorial, Royal Columbia and Burnaby Hospital, etc. Why don't we see if it works out well before we start to do our own? We don't need to see any rush idea, rush action to take place because it will never easy to turn back. Injection site should not be a franchise operation like Starbucks, which you could find every city, every corner, every neighborhood. Those drug users, they can go from one to the other site. You have no control of their mobility. You don't know where they go after. Drug dealers know well where they are about. So with 52 sites in 30 communities, enough is enough. Don't blame the Asian Chinese, especially the senior, get scared of having drug injection site in place, because we have seen in the past what happened in Chinatown. We are scared to see it happen again in Richmond, with most of our population are senior, over 50%, I would say. We don't want to be pushed to the ground. It is a life-threatening injury that there is no turn back. I was living in Chinatown before I moved to Richmond. I have seen Chinatown has gone from prosperity city, town, to someone like today. People scared to go there, especially after dark. People can choose not to go to Chinatown, but people who are sick cannot choose not to go to Richmond General Hospital because they are.
All right, thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is Eric Zhang. We will then go back to Gaddy C. And after that, it'll be Chen Shun Chu. Is that person here tonight? Okay, so if you could wait over there, please. Okay, sir, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I got my outline, but I will go freestyle because there are enough stats shared by previous speakers. As you can tell from the numbers, the sites are building, the numbers are growing. It's not help. It's not taking people back to normal. There was one gentleman from Vancouver Coast Health saying there was 0 died inside the room, right? I assume the number is right, but they need to open their eyes. They only care is what happened in the room. What about the people go out of the room? Are they go back to their life? Are they have a normal life again? Is it really help? Or they are welcome back again next day, right? That's my concern. If this is the correct way to do it, if the site works. My second concern is the location. It's very tricky, right? We are talking about Richmond Hospital. Right across the street is the biggest elementary school in Richmond, Brick House, which my kid goes there, right? I have been seeing the footage, the movie of the Adel Bridge and Westminster after the temporary modular house, right? Once I click on the YouTube, it asks me if I over 19, if I agree with all the warnings. I thought, did I click the right link? But after I see the footage, I know they're asking the right question. It's very scary. People are breaking into the buildings. They are damaging the common properties. They are tailgating the single female into the building. They are break into the cars. They are expose their underbody having fun in public. It is scary. And City Council, whoever approved that, whoever approved the extension of the lease, what have you done? What did you do to help the neighborhood? And I found troublesome nowadays, what happened to democracy? What happened to the freedom of speech? Because whenever we say against something like this, there are big, like you don't have love, you are selfish. We do have love. I love my kid. We love the neighborhood. I've been resident in Richmond for over 20 years. I love Richmond. I try to love you guys. But you guys are supposed to help us, to protect us. And which bothered me even more, this afternoon, my younger kid was sick, so I stayed with her at home, and I prepared the sign, as you can see, no safe conjunction site. She asked me, Dad, what are you doing? I said, I need to speak. I don't agree with this. She said, it's a safe site. Why don't you agree with it? I have to talk to her. I try my best to explain to her, right? If you guys are smoke, you know, even on cigarettes, on tobacco, don't kill you right away. Shows all the scary signs, scallop, you will die by smoking. But for the drug, for the hard drugs, we all know it's gonna kill you eventually. But we put it like safe side. What is gonna tell to our kid? Is it safe? Is it right? Should I do it? Right? I think that's another reason why the number is increasing. How are you gonna educate our kid? Where should we spend the money? To me, it's like nothing but a 5-star clubhouse to welcome everybody who wants to use drugs, right? So what can happen? Where is the safety measure? Even you say you have something in place after I see the video footage from where the temporary modular home, oh, by the way, so many years they're there, I don't consider it's a temporary. How many years is temporary, right? It's been sitting there for a long time. So after what happens there, it's been so many years, there was nothing being done. How can I trust? Even if there is a safety measure. And go back to the medical resources. A lot of people lining up waiting for their operation to be done, including myself. And people having heart attack need to wait hours in emergency room. And we're gonna have someone to watch people getting high? It's not logical to me. And, oh, sorry.
Okay, thanks. The next speaker, Chen Shun Chu. After that, we go back to Gaddy C. and Will Siu. Is Will here? Is Will here? Okay, so if you could go come over here and be ready. Okay, yes, sir.
Mayor, Councillor, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad I'm here tonight. I was here 6 years ago who support the modular homes, which until now I still don't regret. When I pass by there, I see a lot of sign of life. Of course, the site is not too messy. That make me a little comfortable. Although actually my friends not happy with me because I support the project. But anyhow, I'm not regret. But today, I'm here. I got a different story. I got a good and bad story to tell. But actually, the self-injection site or self-drug consumption site, I not agree with this name. If we change the name to Center of Genocide, that might be is better. Because I'm going to tell you why it's not going to work. I got some data here. I got it from the corner services. This method be using for 20 years right now. Nothing improved. Compared to last year, we got 5% more dead than before. We have been to use it 25 years right now. It's a time for us to change the method of helping the people. For me, actually, I share with you the 3-generation detox rehabilitation experiences that I heard from my father, from my own experience when I was youth, and I saw the experience in Singapore. We got 5.5 million people in BC. You know how many people died last year? 2,500. The Singapore got 6,014,073 people in Singapore, the population. The death rate, only 80 people. They're not using, like the self-injection site, self-consumption site. They use the rehab center. Even though the rehab center, the rehab program there is very, very successful. One of the people who conducted the rehabilitation center export to Richmond is running the rehab center very successfully. the organization, the non-profit organization called Breakthrough Mission Canada. I am supporting them too. I think a lot of people here supporting them. That's very successful. I don't believe anything called safe drugs. I know Councillor Cashy for a long time. Of course, he don't know me. He was the police chief in West Vancouver Police Department. And I'm really glad, during his leadership there, actually he improved a lot of highway in West Vancouver. Now it's very smooth, actually avoid a lot of accident. But I'm really glad too, but he didn't propose, like a safe side or crash. But if, the crash itself is an accident, it's not good. Only thing we can give the blessing for the people, improve the highway and avoid the accident. Only way to, eliminate the habit of the drugs, like addiction. Only thing we have to avoid the drugs. I personally involved the drugs ministry when I was in Malaysia, when I was in youth. I'm helping the native people here as well. One of his sons actually addicted with drugs a few years ago. I told him, don't go to the free drug injection site. Rehab in your house and get someone to help. But now 2-3 years over, but his son actually recover. But of course, we still had to monitor him actually closely and prevent them to go back to the same pure group to get back the drug addiction again. This is the only way to do it. Even if you want to go to the South Pole to see the life of penguins, the travel agent may tell you the North Pole can see it. But no matter how much money you put the travel agent, you can't see the penguin in the North Pole. You only can see the fairy tale of the Santa Claus, isn't it? If you want to go to the right direction, you go to South Pole. But we go the wrong direction. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sorry? No. Thank you. The next speaker is online, Gaddy Sue, and then Will Sue, Gaddy C, and then Will Sue and Alice Tang. All right, go ahead.
Dear City Council, my name is Gaddy C, and I address you today not as a concerned resident, but also a devoted mother who has called Richmond home for decades. I want to voice my opposition to the establishment of a supervised consumption site in our city. I stand before you not as a lone voice, but as a representative of the 16,000 people yesterday and today 18,000 people who have signed this petition echoing our shared concerns and fears. We are not opposing for the sake of opposition, but advocating for the safety, well-being, and integrity for our beloved city. Richmond is not merely a dot on the map for me. It's where I built my life, raised my family, and cherish countless memories. Every corner of this city holds sentimental value. In the summer, we take walks in the Mineral Park with grandparents after dinner, and every weekend, my children insist on dining at Richmond White Spot. These places are not just recreational, they're the heart of our community, where families unite and children grow. The idea of establishing a supervised consumption site in our community fills me with unease, especially as a mother. The safety and well-being of our children must be our top priority. The proposed site proximity to areas frequented by families, such as Mineral Park, the Richmond Public Library, Richmond Center, and the hospital zone raises serious safety concerns. While I empathize with those struggling with addiction, and I'm no healthcare expert to challenge the effectiveness, these consumption sites do come with unintended consequences. Example from other cities such as San Francisco, New York, and Vancouver East Hastings shows that supervised consumption sites tend to attract drug dealers, exacerbating the very issue they aim to address. The presence of drug dealers poses a significant threat to our community's safety and well-being, further highlighting the risks associated with the proposed sites without considering these realistic concerns. As a Richmond resident, I feel like I'm being treated as a guinea pig. This worry is not fear-mongering. as an article from the New York-NYC News reports that, quoted, the clinics and injection sites have had an unintentional side effect of bringing dealers around, which is why Lexington has pledged so badly, unquote. My concern is that this facility might potentially ruin our neighborhood. As a mother, I feel both powerless and hopeless. Wonder how I can ensure my voice is heard by our city councilors, or if there are others like me who share similar concerns. This frustration led me to initiate an online petition on February 4th. I urge the City Council to listen to its constituents, engage in meaningful dialogue, and consider alternative solutions to address substance abuse without compromising community safety. Together, let us work our communities better and safer. Thank you for your attention and consideration.
All right, thank you. Next speaker is Will Su, then Alice Tang. Alice Tang, that's you. And Emily Ying Lin. Okay, if you could be ready. Okay, yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is William Su. I resided at Cascade City Building since March 2022. For those who don't know, that's right across from Rona. It's 100 meters from the existing problematic neighborhood SRO, aka modular housing, and now potentially 300 meters from the proposed safe injection site. I'm a permanent resident in Canada. I moved here from a third world country in hopes of a better, safer future. Emphasis on safer future. Please listen to what I have to say and listen carefully. We, and when I say we, I mean the Richmond community, coincidentally Canada as a whole, we are turning to a third world country with all this garbage virtual signaling initiatives and the assistance to people in society that don't contribute anything to it. Much of the opposite, these people trash and destroy everything that comes close to them. From my personal experience, I have personally witnessed the following in my once safe and quiet community. Number one, shoplifting across the street at Rona from regular residents of the SRO that use the money to fund their drugs. Number two, I've watched from my balcony as zombie drug addicts roam the streets screaming at each other in the middle of the night. Number three, I've seen them race down the sidewalks with stolen high-end e-bikes, the ones that are over $3,000. I ask you this, in what world were they able to afford these bikes? And I'll answer that. It's all stolen from us, the community. Number four, pileup of TNT cards that they push their stolen belongings, then they leave at the corner of Elmbridge Way and Alderbridge Way by the small dog park. Number five, people smoking from meth pipes in front of my building with no shame or fear of getting caught. Number six, constant break-ins in my building. We have a ridiculous amount of break-ins, from stolen deliveries, broken cars, storage rooms, and even hallways. We've had homeless people break in and live in our karaoke room. Security keeps finding syringes inside our parkade and corridors. We've had the cops come because a homeless person got stuck in our air vent when they tried to break into our building. Cops in the fire department had to come and rescue the guy. Number seven, broken judicial system. This one shocks me the most. We caught an SRO guy stealing our packages and we called the police. When they came, to my dismay and the representation of the current judicial system in Canada, the police said, and I quote, "As much as it pains me to say, do you want us to catch and release now or catch release later?" End quote. He said this because the drug addicts are caught by police, but the system just releases them with a fine that they cannot pay because they're homeless and poor, so they continue to terrorize the local communities. As someone who thought my childhood in a third world country was bad and once proudly defended how nice it was to live in Canada, I'm sorry to say that is not the case anymore. It hasn't been the case for a while now. It's getting to the same levels of violence and insecurity as where I grew up. This is not what we should be striving for as members of our community. In conclusion, it's time to say out loud what too many people are scared to admit. When drug addicts need money, they steal from us and local businesses. There is no place for drug addicts in our communities except for mental institutions or prison. Medical resources are notoriously stretched thin already. Why further the burden the system with people who are actively taking advantage of it? Addicts are unemployable. Who do you think ends up funding their addiction? I'll tell you, it's us poor suckers that live in the community. Hardworking people who pay taxes and abide by the laws. People who contribute to society, add value. I'm part of that group. Every day I make a decision to be a contributing member of society. I understand my place in the puzzle. My participation is a privilege, not a right. That applies to everyone. That means if you don't play by the rules, you shouldn't be getting any for free, period. Every day, us responsible taxpayers make a decision to not commit crimes or give in to our urges of instant gratification with drug usage. If drug addicts continuously are doing their best to not contribute to society, then stop enabling them with taxpayer dollars. By giving them a safe space, you're not only inviting more of them here, but you're prolonging their lifestyle and thus the suffering of the system of the whole community. If you don't agree with me, I encourage you to walk your talk and set them up near your home, and I bet you won't feel safe then.
I said no applause. Okay, Alice Tang. And then Emily Ying Lin. Is that person. And after that will be Ted Yu Wang. Is Ted here? Okay, if you could be ready to go. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Alice Tang. I've been living in Richmond since 1985. I'm totally opposed to a supervised consumption site known as SCS in Richmond, and definitely don't want any in my backyard for reasons below. But let me first express my sentiments. Richmond residents are not happy with how the councillors have come together to vote on a 6-item motion on how to implement a SCS in the Richmond Hospital precinct without any public consultation. To clarify, it was Councillors Cash Heat and Laura Galanda who kick-started this issue, and not Coastal Health. The City of Richmond councillors owe it to all Richmond residents to listen to their voices on how SCS could affect their lives, their neighborhood, and the community. And we ask for a referendum before you proceed further. There is a supervised injection site in the temporary modular home for the exclusive use of the residents. Though it was supervised, there were 3 deaths due to overdose of drugs, even in such a small community. So tell me, how safe can that be? And what have the councillors done? Nothing. So how can we Richmondites trust you and your judgment? In response to the gentleman earlier who said there were no deaths in safe injection sites, here is the proof. Data also shows that there were 2,511 cases of drug overdose deaths in BC in 2023, among which Richmond had 25, which was less than 1%. The safe injection sites in Greater Vancouver that have been around for more than a decade aren't keeping the number of acute drug overdose deaths down, but have attracted more drug addicts. Why does Richmond want to follow these misguided footsteps? Among the total deaths in Richmond in 2023, 30% accounted for mental illness. Our priority is not on SCS, but to 1, help people with mental illness, 2, educate the public on the severe negative impact on drug use, and 3, support the families with members suffering from mental illness and of drug abuse. Having a mental illness or a medical condition is not a choice, but abusing drug is a choice. Drug abuse or addiction is definitely not the same as a medical condition. Doctors prescribe medications to patients to treat the root cause of a health condition. Responsible doctors will not find an easy way out by prescribing poison continuously to their clients while waiting for the patients to find out the root cause themselves. the 8 councillors who think that SCS are good for the community and for the next generation. But I hope that your children and your grandchildren will never have to use one of these facilities in their service. Councillors, please be responsible for your decisions and actions. This may translate into the support you may lose or gain in the next election. Thank you.
All right, the next speaker is Emily Ying Lin. After that will be Ted Yu Wang, who we saw a minute ago. Yeah, over there. Please, sir, please be over here and be ready. And after that will be Fred Liu. Is Fred here tonight? Fred? Is Fred Liu here tonight? Okay, well, guess not. All right, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Brody, for the opportunity. I don't have a long speech prepared because I believe most of the speakers tonight here already speak my mind. I want to start with a very simple question for everyone in the room. Do you think drugs will do good to human body and human mind? If your answer is yes, I want to ask you, then why don't you take drugs? Why don't you ask your kids, your family to take drugs? So I would say most people will answer no, because we all know it's a scientific fact. Drugs will do bad to your human body and the human mind. So why we need this so-called safe injection site? Because this name is so misleading. No drug is safe. Instead, if you say, oh, today we are going to propose some like rehab center, correction facility, then I will vote 100% yes. We need to help people to detox and then to get rid of drugs instead of encouraging them to continue on the vicious cycle as they are right now. And so just as I mentioned, I don't have long speech. So to sum up, I would say no to drugs, say no to inject site, and say no to Councillor Cash. And then we want to save our community. And then I want to say thank you so much to Councillor Chuck for standing up with our community. Thank you.
All right, the next speaker is Ted Yu Wang. After that will be Fred Liu, who we saw a minute ago. He's here somewhere. Where's Fred? Sorry, Fred Liu, where is he? Okay, then Debbie Tablotny. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, good evening. My name is Ted, and I stand before you today as a proud resident of Richmond for the past 23 years. I'm a father of 2 young boys who attend schools in Richmond. I have witnessed the growth and development of the city, and I'm here tonight to voice my concerns about these recent proposals on setting up a drug consumption site within our community. So firstly, let me draw your attention to the overwhelming oppositions from the residents of Richmond. A petition on drug consumption site in Richmond was signed by over 18,000 people. This reflects the collective voice of our community. And tonight, before this meeting, hundreds of people, including myself, gathered outside to protest against the council's decision. I represent not only myself, but also all these families and the communities. We're all united in our stance against your proposal. Now, let me bring everybody's attention to this very important fact. And this is for you, Cash. There's a strong correlation between Councillor Cash Heat and a drug company called Lucy Scientific Discovery. Let's pay very close attention to the timeline here.
Sir, yeah, we're going to stop you right there. I'm going to go to Councillor Heat. You've got some remarks on this. There you go.
I'm going to read this out. As it relates to what you have said, which you refer to my past public policy consulting work, and further, if you continue to make false and/or misleading allegations, I will appropriately pursue a defamation civil claim to protect my reputation from unjustified harm. Further, I want to let you know that there is no parliamentary privilege granted in council chambers.
Can I speak now? So I'm just pointing out the facts and the timeline. I didn't state any of my personal opinions. I'll leave it to the society to interpret. Okay, let me speak. So October 2022, Cash Heat was elected as the Richmond Consul. March 8, 2023, Lucy Scientific Discovery filed amendment with Health Canada to expand the list of controlled substance, including...
No, sir. He's just going to finish this and keep going.
I'm stating the facts, please. Including heroin and cocaine.
No. Fine. Fine.
Timeline. This is timeline. It's a schedule. I didn't say anything. Please, let me speak, okay? I have the right to speak, please. March 29th, pay attention here, March 29th, 2023, Lucy Scientific Discovery appointed Cash Heat as the special advisor. January 30th, 2024, Councillor Heat is proposing the site to be situated within Richmond General Hospital. February 5th, 2024, a motion brought forward by Councillor Cash Heat and Laura Gillanders introducing the ideas of a site in Richmond to test and consume drug. That's it, I'm pointing out the fact. No personal opinions. I'll leave it to the society to interpret. Okay, let's back to the topic now. It's disheartening to know that the councillor tried to push this proposal through so quickly with the lack of consultation to the community. Have Mayor Brody and the councillor ever engaged in a meaningful discussion with the residents and the voters before proceeding with such a significant proposal? We all know the answer is no. This reckless approach to governance is not acceptable, and we as the voter of Richmond want our voice to be heard and respected. The proposed drug consumption site is located in the heart of the Richmond City. It is surrounded by many schools and residential accommodations. We're extremely concerned about the promotion and advocacy of drug use within our community, especially when it comes to the safety and well-being of our children. Furthermore, I would like to address the responsibility of those who propose with this proposal without having their children attending school in this community. As a parent, I find it extremely irresponsible. It is essential for those making this decision to understand the impacts on family and children before advocating for the initiatives that may compromise their safety and future. In conclusion, I urge Mayor Brody and the councillor to first, reconsider this proposal, second, engage in a meaningful consultation with the community, and three, prioritize on the safety and well-being of the residents of Richmond, especially the children. And tonight, myself and all these parents, elders here are all stand united against this decision, and we will use every effort required to protect our community and our children. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to go back to Councillor Heed. Now, we've not been making comments as a council, but if you make potentially offensive comments directed to one councillor, I will allow that to be clarified. Councillor Heed.
I'll reserve my remarks. Thank you, Mayor. It's just I wanted people to know that the information that's being given is false, misleading, and totally incorrect.
All right. Okay, so the next speaker is Fred Liu. Is he here? Thought he was here. Fred Liu? Have I gone? Okay, Debbie Tablotny, then Andrew Tablotny, and Janice Louis. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor Brody and councillors. I am speaking in favor of the potential implementation of a safe consumption site at Richmond General Hospital. The motion before council has been well thought out and provides for consultation and input from Coastal Health, provincial and federal governments, local health providers, and community organizations. It also calls for a task force to be formed and for much-needed community education and awareness. It's important for people to read the motion thoroughly. Education is the most important piece because I feel the lack of information and fear has led to the numbers of people who are opposing the creation of this site here tonight. We should all seek to understand before seeking to be understood. People who use drugs are also members of this community, and some of them most likely could be your neighbors. We don't often see the effects of drug use on someone until it's too late. Many are using in the comfort of their own home. However, they're playing Russian roulette with the supply of toxic drugs that are readily available in Richmond. It is a high percentage of men who are using alone that are dying. My son was one of those men. He had hidden his drug use for years until he was unable to hide it. He tried treatments several times, which we had to help him pay for. But he was unable to stay clean because the mental health issues he suffered from were not treated effectively due to the lack of resources in Richmond. He died alone in his rental suite while playing his PlayStation after working in our insurance office as a competent insurance broker. If he could have tested the drugs that he used that night or was able to drop by the hospital on his way home from work to use the drugs that he was so badly craving, he might still be alive today. Someone there who cared about his well-being might have been able to counsel him and help him get back on track and into treatment again. We'll never know whether he would have used the facility because he's not here and he's missed every day by our family and his fiancée and his friends. I'm hearing about only 26 people died last year in Richmond. Every death is tragic and affects many people. We had over 500 people at his funeral. All those people are grieving and still grieving. This is why this proposed service is so valuable in saving lives. Please, Council, do the right thing so that another family does not have to suffer the pain and heartache of missing their loved one every day. And I also want to just make a point. We own a business that is in the area of the entrance to the modular housing. And I can say, even at night, I have never felt unsafe. So thank you. And that is the honest to goodness truth.
That's enough.
Thank you, Mayor Brody and Council.
Thank you. All right, the next speaker is Andrew Jablotny, then Janice Louie. No, it's this gentleman, and then you. And then Celia Chio. Celia, if you could be ready, please. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Brody. It's Andrew Jablotny. I've been a citizen of Richmond for 42 years. I'm here tonight to provide my support for the motion to add a safe consumption site in Richmond. While many in the opposition to this motion may be well-meaning, moral and religious opinions do not trump actual scientific facts and real statistics. There's been a lot of opinions expressed tonight that aren't based in fact. There's a lot of anxiety and fear, and I can sympathize with that, but the drugs, the addicts, and the drug dealers have been here, and they'll continue to be here. So putting our head in the sand is not a solution. There seems to be a lack of empathy because drug addicts are disposable as far as some people are concerned. I mean, with that attitude, what about smokers? We shouldn't treat them for cancer when they come into the hospital then, right? We shouldn't treat obese people because they chose to eat. So, these are things that people need to take into consideration. One thing I wanted to address was the petition that was circulated recently. It had somewhere between 15 and 20,000 signatures. So what did the petition actually say? It says the introduction of such a facility will inevitably attract more drug addicts to our city. This was mentioned at the general purpose meeting last week. As David Byers had said earlier, why would a drug addict person spend hours traveling from downtown Vancouver or another municipality to go to a facility in Richmond when they have ones closer? Statistics have shown that no honeypot effect where a site automatically draws in more users. The petition also states this would lead to an increase in crime rates and public safety issues that would directly affect us all. And they say our concerns are will the communities with safe consumption sites see increase in drug-related crimes and public disorders? By providing support to the substance user, you have an opportunity to help them find support services that can reduce their need to commit crime to support their drug habits. The survey also says there are potential health risks associated with these sites that cannot be ignored. Again, why let facts get in the way of histrionic propaganda? The facts are that overall there will be less needles left around the community, and statistics show large drops in rates of HIV and other transmittable diseases occur. This saves lives and our healthcare system a lot of money. Look at Saskatchewan, who has recently seen a significant increase in AIDS transmission as they have reduced their harm reduction. The petition states additionally, when these sites aim to reducing harm among users, they can inadvertently contribute to increased substance abuse due to easy access, which seems to be a theme here tonight. Do the petitioners think their children will be lining up after school for free drugs? Are they assuming that the professional staff at this clinic will hand out drugs to just anyone? In these facilities, the substance user brings their own drugs to the site, which can then be tested for impurities like fentanyl. For those with an open mind, here are some facts from the Public Health Agency of Canada. Since 2017, there were over 4.3 million visits to Canadian safe consumption sites. 49,000 overdoses were prevented and over 250,000 referrals for treatment and social services were requested. So if these facts are accurate, then what this petition is actually saying is that as a society, we would rather let these marginalized people die from an overdose because we are uncomfortable with their presence in our community, and the thought of them coexisting in our city offends our sensitivities, rather than trying to find meaningful, fact-based solutions. However, the people I really take exception with over this issue are those that use wedge issues like this to further their own political aspirations, whether they be in civic, provincial, or federal politics, and purposely misinform members of the public with half-truths and innuendos. We've seen this play out for the past 8 years in populist politics in the US, where if you repeat the lie often enough, there are those that will believe the lies even when the facts support the contrary. The facts support this motion. The medical specialists support the decision. The Health Minister and Coastal Health are in favor of this site. Just like gender-neutral bathrooms and rainbow crosswalks, a safe consumption site's time has come. I ask you vote to approve the safe consumption site. I'd like to end my speech with a couple of quotes from the Bible. Proverbs 14:21 says, "It is a sin to despise one's neighbor, but blessed is the one who is kind to the needy." And in Proverbs 31, it says, "Speak up for people who cannot speak for themselves." And that's exactly what I've done tonight. Thank you for your time.
All right, the next speaker is Janice Louie. And after that, Celia Cho. Is you? Now, Karina Lee and Christine Lamb, are they on Zoom? Oh, you're here. Okay, so you'll be after this lady. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, dear Mayor, dear councillors, and dear general public. My name is Janice Loy. I am here to strongly object the implementation of a supervised consumption site. Even figures shows very clearly that the increase in injection sites or the so-called supervised consumption site do not lead to the reduction in number of overdose deaths. I don't want to argue with you about the figures and numbers. I'm just a little woman, a very common resident in Richmond. I just believe in what I see. Vancouver opened its first injection site in East Hastings in 2003. What happened to East Hastings now? A once popular shopping and sightseeing area, now turning to be an area with an increase in theft, crime, and social disorder. An area that most people dare not to visit. Few months ago, I drove through East Hastings. I was stopped by a seemed to be drug addict. I was really very, very scared. And then after a while, I just sat in the car, didn't know how to do. So I don't know this will happen again in Richmond. Taking drugs is definitely harmful to health, no matter how safe it is. Safe and harm are two contradicting words. My English is not good, but putting these two words together do not change its harmful nature. Taking drugs is definitely not normal behavior. We can't normalize harmful things. If it is so, this city is dying. This country is dying. The more convenient to use drugs is likely to promote substance use rather than reduce substance use. This is common sense. In order to help the substance user, yes, I totally agree that they are the people that really in need. But the priority of the resources spending should be in detoxing program and education, as well as cutting the supply of drugs. Providing a so-called safe consumption site is not harm reduction, it is harm extension. Dear Mayor, you mentioned earlier in this meeting that you seldom see so many residents to participate in a discussion of a council motion. It tells very clear that there are so many residents stand against the idea of establishing a so-called supervised consumption site. Please listen to your people. Please listen to your voters. I demand at least a public consultation before moving on if this topic is so controversial. Why do we need to move on so in such a rush way? Just propose last Monday and then make the decision just after 1 week. Councillor Heed, when you won the election in 2003, in the year before, you mentioned in a media interview that residents and business should be consulted more to guide City Council's policies rather than city staff saying how things should be run. I hope you still remember what you said. Thank you very much.
All right. The next speaker then is Celia Chio, and then Karina Lee and Christine Lam, followed by Frankie C. Is Frankie here? Is Frankie here? Don't see him. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Celia. I am a mom of 2 daughters, aged 9 and 12. We live together with my husband in Richmond. Imagine for a moment our neighborhood, where our children play freely, where they ride their bikes and enjoy the simple joys of childhood. But now, consider the potential consequence of introducing a safe drugs consumption site into this environment, where there are 8 schools nearby, 8 schools. Today, I'm here to share my heartfelt concern about the potential consumption site in Richmond, particularly focusing on how it impacts our children's well-being. First, keeping our children safe. We all want our children to be safe. Having a place where people use drugs nearby raises potential safety concern. We cannot ignore the risk associated with increased foot traffic, potential loitering, and presence of drug use in our community. We don't want our kids to accidentally come across things that could hurt them. Our children deserve to feel safe and secure in their own neighborhoods. Teaching the right lessons to my children. We work hard to teach our children what's wrong and right. But if there is a place nearby where people are using drugs, it might make them think it's okay or normal. We want them to make good choice, stay away from things that can hurt them, and provide them with positive role models. Our kids' health is the main priority to parents. If there is needle or other dangerous things lying around because of the site, our children could get hurt. We need to make sure our children are safe and healthy. Keeping our community together. Our neighborhood is like a big family, but having a place where people using drugs could cause problems and make things tense. We want to keep our community strong and happy for our children to grow up in. As a parent myself, it It is our responsibility to stand up for the safety and well-being for our children. We must stand together and stop the establishment of consumption sites in our neighborhood, Richmond. Let us work towards solutions that prioritize prevention, education, and support service to build a healthier and safer community for our children to grow up in. Thank you for your listening.
The next speakers will be Karina Lee and Christine Lamb. All right, please have a seat.
Thank you.
After that, Frankie C., if Frankie is here, that's you. Please come down, be ready to go. And then Leslie McBain. Is Leslie McBain here? Sorry, on Zoom? Okay, on Zoom. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone, Mayor and all the councilors here. Actually, I seldom really look at news, especially about Richmond, the neighborhood that I have lived for over 30 years, since I moved here from Hong Kong in 1988. Until recently, my sister told me that she got very worried about the safety and security of the place. She said that in Winners, Lansdowne Mall, a couple of times when she was at Winners shopping, she witnessed a daylight robbery. Not robbery, I mean by whatever. The guy was obviously a druggie. He had a cart, and he just like shopping. And the whole cart was full, and then he just left. The security didn't even try to stop him. So nobody did anything. This is something new to me because it's only seemed that it happened in San Francisco or whatever in the States, but it now is happening in Richmond now. This is not the only case though. She said that another time, she went there again, something happened again. And then on the news in White Rock, I heard that in White Rock there was a safe on foot in a very popular mall, Samiamu. The store manager tried to stop the same, incident. And the guy actually tried to spray him with the bear spray, and he got injured. So what kind of city are we living in right now? I've been feeling very safe until then. Richmond, I trust all you guys, right? Because I think it's very safe. I like Canada. I feel very fortunate to be living in Canada, especially in Vancouver and especially in Richmond. Whenever I flew over to, say, like overseas or even to Toronto, to St. John, Newfoundland, when the plane almost touched down to YVR, I felt that, oh my God, I'm home. This is the best place in the world. I walked the seawall every week. I think this is like the best place. This is like heaven. But now, people started to feel, why are we here tonight? This is something new. This is shocking. Something must have gone wrong, very wrong. Why are we here? So until this past couple of years, it seems that the whole neighborhood, the whole city has changed a lot. Why are we having so many high rises? Is this sustainable? Can the city really be able to deal with so much traffic, so much sewage, so much electricity consumption, for example, gas consumption? Are they all well thought out? Has any research or study been done? I trust you guys, okay? I like almost every one of us here. especially the first language is not English. But we feel that the city has been very properly run, very nicely, very convenient. We trust you guys. So what's happening in this past couple of years? This is a very important question we should all think about. I mean, back to the question of this drug consumption site. I don't think Insight works at all. For 20 years, over, after the first inception in 137 East Hastings, what has changed? What has changed? Except higher rates of addiction, messier, uglier neighborhoods, more complaints. And actually, since 20, the state of Vancouver has declared a state of emergency because of all this fentanyl.
All right, ma'am, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have Frankie C. Frankie, okay, and Leslie McBain. Leslie McBain is here? No? Sorry? Oh, she's on Zoom. And Pico Chung? Okay, so you're third on the list. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, dear Mayor, dear councilors, hi everyone. My name is Frankie. I've lived in this lovely city for 3 years. And I love this city, and I would like the city council to say no to the safe consumption sites in Richmond. Not because I love the city, but saying no to the site is all because it is for the best interest of the drug users. I totally disagree with the whole concept of safe consumption sites, even if it is on East Hastings Street or at wherever in the Great Vancouver area. To assist the drug users, please spend funds and resources on education. To teach our kids and young people that it is so harmful to be addicted to drugs. According to different medical studies, drug does cause permanent brain damage, and you have to admit these cold hard facts. You can just Google drug and brain damage, and in seconds, you will find so many studies from different constitutions concluding that taking drug leads to permanent brain damage, and I mean permanent. So setting up a safe consumption site is aiding the drug users or is devastating them? The answer is very clear. The site will be devastating to the drug users in turn. Instead, please spend money and resources in helping the drug user to quit drugs and to help them to get back to the normal life, and not to set up the safe consumption site, which is so absurd and senseless to me. And I want to spend a minute on the poll of Richmond News about whether or not to set up the site in Richmond. The setting of the poll can be misleading and create bias. The hypothesis behind the option yes and no in the poll is that yes, and the reason behind must be stopping the drug deaths. And come on, taking so-called safer drugs is the only way to reduce the number of drug deaths? I don't think so. What about the brain damage caused by the drug that I just mentioned? What about other major health issues caused by the drug which may lead drug death also, like the lung and heart disease, stroke, cancer, and mental health problems? And what if I say no? The answer has to be bundled with the reason of crime and disorder in Richmond. And let me be clear again. Saying no to the site, to me at least, mainly is to help the drug users. Please spend the money wisely to help the drug user to quit drugs, to educate our kids to stay away from drugs. And setting up the consumption sites will hurt the drug users in turn. I hope the City Council listen to all of our voices. Thank you.
All right, the next speaker, Leslie McBain, is on Zoom. Then Pico Chung and Noel Ho. Is Noel here? Is Noel? Okay, so you're the third speaker. Okay, so on Zoom, we are going to Leslie McBain.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the time. I've heard so much tonight about the fear of the people of Richmond around a supervised consumption site. The fear comes from not knowing about addiction, not knowing about drug use. And I wish that people would educate themselves on such things. Safe consumption sites have one goal, and that is to save the lives of people who use drugs. It's to save lives. Now, if people that I've been speaking tonight don't care that people who use drugs die, I have a message, and that is my son died from drug harms. I wish that if he had needed a safe consumption site, a supervised consumption site, he would have had one, and he would be here today. There are thousands and thousands of families here in British Columbia who have lost their loved ones because of the toxic drug market. This is another thing that needs to be learned. I founded an organization called Mom Stop the Harm. Our main goal is to save and support the lives of people who use drugs. That is, we don't want our children to die. We don't want your children to die. We know that the council has had this motion put before them, and I'm very, very happy to hear that. I hope the people of Richmond will understand that this will not impact their lives. And also, I would like people of Richmond to know that there were 2,300 call-outs for overdose response by paramedics in the last 7 years. That means there are people in Richmond who you cannot see who are using drugs, may be addicted or may be recreational. But the point here is that we want to save people's lives. People who use drugs are innocent. They're not breaking a law by using drugs. We have decriminalization, which helps people not get arrested for small amounts of drugs because we understand that they may be dependent, they may be addicted, they may be using recreationally, and it's actually not a crime. 2.5 grams and less. Anyway, that's a whole other story. So supervised consumption sites have these goals, and what they do, they give out free harm reduction supplies. They witness drug consumption by healthcare providers. They provide timely overdose response from trained providers. They provide drug checking services. There are so many good things that they do for people who use drugs. If people are concerned about the safety of their children, I believe that that's a misguided fear, and that the fear should be that their children don't learn what they need to know about drug addiction, about people who use drugs, that they are human beings, that they are good people. And a lot of the people that you see that you think are addicted are suffering mental health issues. Our provincial government is online to supply more treatment facilities and different kinds of treatment. Those things are going to be provided, but as Dave Byer said, people need to be alive to take advantage of these services. How many people will die? Will it be your children? Will it be more of your friends' children or your friends? Who will die because of a lack of a safe and supervised consumption site? We need to support this motion, and Mom Stop the Harm, of which there are about 1,500 members in British Columbia, fully support the motion. And really, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Pico Chung, and then Noel Ho. Noel is Noel, okay. And JC, XIE, JC. Oh, that's you. Okay, so you're third on the list then. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Today, I'm so glad that to be one of the Richmond residents to be here because it's so proud of Richmond residents that I feel hundreds or even thousands of residents are come to light to express our view and share our viewpoints. I'm glad to have this opportunity to share my viewpoint inside the meeting. I understand that the drug addicts, the drug user, may have their challenges and difficulties in their life so that they are consuming the drugs. And I believe that they really need the support from the community, but I strongly disagree on setting up the supervised consumption site in Richmond. I have the below concerned. First of all, setting up the supervised consumption site, I do not think it is the urgent need of Richmond residents. Actually, from my understanding, how many people are having the drugs using in Richmond? I do not think there are much residents are taking drugs inside the Richmond area. So instead of using the resources for drug-related surveys, I think there are different resources or different medical surveys that we can spend the resources on. Second, supervised consumption sites may lead to increased crime rates. Different people are saying their concerns on this issue. Some people may say that although there are no people die inside the supervised consumption site, however, what's happened to the surrounding area? Suppose if we take a look of what's happened in downtown East Side, we can see different things. We have different feelings. For me, I see a lot of urine and feces on the street, and that is not a good experience of my visit to downtown East Side. And I love Richmond, and I do not want Richmond to be another Chinatown, or I do not want Richmond to be another downtown East Side. I hope that the council member could really listen to our voice and consider our opinion. And today, thank you very much for your understanding and listening. Thank you.
Okay, let's see, it's Noel Ho?
No, sorry.
No, just a minute. I've got Pico Chung. That was him. Okay, then Noel Ho, and then JC.
My name is Noel Ho, a longtime resident in Richmond. And thank you for the opportunity for me to speak on tonight's council meeting agenda item number 18, supervised consumption site. First of all, what is the issue? What is the real issue? As stated in the last General Purposes Committee meeting, is the growing public health crisis related to acute drug addiction and overdose deaths. The cause of these issues does not relate to having a consumption site whatsoever. It's the unlimited supply, both legally and illegally, of drugs and easy access to drugs. As stated on the paper as presented by Councillor Glanders and Councillor Heath, these are public health issues that are federal and provincial governments' responsibilities for which they have failed our fellow Canadian citizens and now downloaded to our local government to scramble and resolve. And that's what the motion is doing, just scrambling. Let's face it, in terms of knowledge, resources, and legal authority in relation to drugs, local government bodies just are not set up for it. The best Richmond should do is not to pretend that we know the solution and act on any pretense, but to face our limitation and be relentless and continuous to quote the upper levels of government on their duties. Secondly, where did the idea of a safe consumption site come from? Had any one of us in the public been consulted? I certainly was blindsided by this motion from the last General Purposes Committee meeting. And I believe every Richmond resident was blindsided. Do not ever blindside your taxpayer and voters on issues that have so many reciprocal downfalls. I suggest all of these 6 motion items be shelved until the city conduct a fulsome, multi-phased public consultation on many aspects related to drug issues. And the first phase of this public consultation should focus on nothing but to simply ask our Richmond residents whether we want a supervised drug consumption site in Richmond or not. Unless you receive a majority or 90% of Richmond residents who support the idea of a supervised drug consumption site in Richmond, the city should not invest any further resources on this subject. And one more point, the Richmond Hospital Precinct, VCH and hospital will definitely not allow any safe consumption site to take place inside the hospital compound. So where are we looking at? Let's be honest, we'll be looking at one of the existing facilities on the same block. Therefore, Mineral Center for Active Living, Mineral Arena, Cultural Center and Library, Gateway Theatre, or the Mineral Chapel, or maybe the Bowling Green building within Mineral Park, or maybe the Bright House Elementary School on the west side of the hospital across Gilbert Road. All of these facilities serve multiple specific needs of Richmond residents that Council has previously approved and have used taxpayers' money to build in the past for specific community needs. Taxpayers did not approve the conversion of any of these facilities into a drug consumption site. And you can imagine what negative effect this ill-informed decision would create for our beloved Mineral Park. Last but not least, look at downtown East Side. Imposing a safe injection site ties the entire community together and will hound our city down a path of no return. And here I am urging you, our councillors, remember, you are our elected officials to lead the city to a better tomorrow, not worse. So once again, I suggest to Council, all of these 6 motion items should be shelved until the city conduct a fulsome, multi-phase public consultation in relation to drug issues, with the first phase of this public consultation focusing on simply asking Richmond residents whether we want it or not. Unless you receive a majority vote from Richmond residents supporting the ideas of a supervised drug consumption site in Richmond, the city should not invest any further resources on this subject, but to put pressure on our provincial government, who is actually responsible to resolve the public.
All right, thank you. JC, XIE, then Lisa Way, I believe, is on Zoom. And Jesse Ferraris, is Jesse here tonight? Oh, if you could be ready, sir, come on over. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Brody, City Councils, and all guests. I'm a Richmond resident and also mother of a high school teen. I'm here tonight to ask a few questions to the City Council who proposed and passed to establish a safe drugs consumption site in Richmond, which I don't really agree to use the term of safe. Okay, starting a drug consumption site in our city is a significant public safety and health issue that will have impacts to the city of Richmond and hundreds of thousands of households in the city. City Council was voted, therefore expected to represent the people of Richmond. So my question is that, have you and when addressed this public agenda with you voters by public consultations? If not, why do you believe that you are entitled to pass such important proposal on behalf of the people from Richmond? I believe we as Richmond residents deserve to know what's going on in the city and why. It is irresponsible to make decisions for the city without comprehensive public consultation. The second is I would like to be informed that based on what data that you made a conclusion that there will be a successful story, as Council mentioned at interview, of reducing overdose deaths by establishing a drug consumption site in the Richmond City. Let me tell you some data that published on government.bc.ca. Starting from 2014, the death of overdose in BC is 368, and then 529, 994, 1495, 1562, 987, 1773, 2310, 2293, and until last year, 2511. The figures shows no success, but failures of this so-called safe drug consumption site in the BC, which has built 12 these kind of facilities in the province. So, City Council, please do thorough research before submitting the proposal and do not waste taxpayers' money. Next question is for Council Heat. According to CTV News, when you were interviewed, you stated that we will be judged by society on how we deal with and how we treat our most vulnerable populations. I strongly want to know that who you refer to by saying the most vulnerable population in the city. Are they the hundreds of young kids going to school every morning, cross the street to the site that you proposed to build? Or our elder people living in those senior mayors surrounding that area? Or the teens go to public libraries and community creation centers every day, and our lovely Mineral Park that we go for a walk after dinner? So not to mention, there are many densely medical clinics, life labs, doctors' offices, and dense residential buildings in that area. Our goal is supposed to save lives and help desperate people instead of to put more people's daily life miserable. That is why our city should work out a solid solution to really keep people from drugs. Having a supervised drug site is not helpful because you can't guarantee that addicted drug users only take drugs in that site. Can't you? So if so, there would have not been more and more overdose deaths in BC with more and more SDC sites built in the province. People who are addicted to drugs need community support for sure. I have no doubt about that. We want to help them and we want to save more lives. They should be provided rehab facilities and mental support and doctors instead of giving them a place to take drugs. Now my question is, dear City Councils.
Sorry, we're out of time. All right, online we have Lisa Way, if I've pronounced that correctly, followed by Jesse Ferreira, who's here, and Dan Cupa and company. Are they here? Okay, so you'll be next if you can be ready. So, online.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Lisa Y, and I'm a member of Moms Stop the Harm, a network of more than 4,000 Canadian families impacted by substance use-related harms and deaths. I'm speaking tonight in support of this motion. Illicit drug toxicity has become the province's leading cause of death for people between the ages of 10 and 59, according to the BC Coroner. According to the coroner, illicit fentanyl is a driving factor in overdose deaths. Drug testing shows fentanyl present in almost 90% of samples tested. More than 12,000 people in BC have died from toxic drug poisoning since the public health emergency was declared in 2016. We know that toxic drug poisonings do not only affect marginalized and homeless people. People from any culture and socioeconomic class can be affected, including those with problematic substance use and those who are recreational users. Our daughter Renee was poisoned by the unregulated toxic drug supply 4 years ago and died at age 29. She did not take too many drugs. She did not die of an overdose. She was poisoned by illicit drugs of unknown composition and unknown potency. Renee was a smart, beautiful, kind person with hopes and dreams for a good life. She grew up in a loving middle-class family with many opportunities. Renee never stopped trying to recover from drugs. Along her courageous path to wellness, she lost her life. Renee was not a bad person or a weak person. Although we tried everything to help her, we had little understanding of the complex health crisis she was living with, and we were unaware of the different paths to recovery. I carry the pain of losing my daughter every day. It is worsened by the fact that drug-related deaths are stigmatized and often overlooked by society. Media coverage, police investigations, and criminal charges rarely follow when someone is poisoned from toxic drugs. A common belief in our society is that substance use is a moral failing. People who use substances are often blamed for not being able to stop, and so are treated with less compassion and less care than other people who are suffering from serious health issues. We know that substance use is not a moral issue. These erroneous beliefs contribute to stigma and discrimination, which increase the likelihood that people will hide their substance use alone, and avoid seeking help. Negative attitudes and beliefs about people who use drugs contribute to the complacency and lack of government response that we are fighting to change here tonight. As witnessed during the COVID pandemic, all levels of government have an obligation to take urgent and immediate steps to prevent the ongoing toxic drug deaths. Every day that we wait on implementing reforms, more people die. We must treat substance use and addiction as health issues, not criminal ones. We must ensure low barrier access to safe supply and expand access to harm reduction, treatment, and recovery services. Drug use can be managed and the harms can be mitigated. Measures that save lives, such as supervised consumption sites, are essential if people are to survive and access supports. Toxic drug poisoning can happen to anyone. If this crisis has not yet affected you or someone you know, then you are lucky. Each loss is a unique life, a cherished individual who is deeply missed by their loved ones. Mayor and Council, I urge you to support this motion. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter.
All right, thank you. The next speaker, Jesse Ferreras, then Dan Cupa and group, and Henry Au, AU. Is Henry here? Is Henry here? Sorry? Oh, yes, so he is. Henry's online. Okay.
I'm online.
Yeah, okay, you'll be on in a minute. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak tonight. I know that some people in this chamber may recognize me as someone that they've tangled with in an election or two. I want you all to know that I come here today with no malice toward anyone in this chamber, and I also come with deep appreciation for everyone who has voted to study this site at Richmond Hospital. I first moved to Richmond 27 years ago this month. I've married my wife. We have raised a family here with two beautiful young boys, aged 6 and 2 years old, steps away from the temporary modular housing project. I first moved here as a kid from East Vancouver who was badly bullied at school. On my first day at Steveston Secondary, I sat behind a kid named TJ, but that's not his real name. TJ was an athletic type. He really enjoyed playing sports like basketball. Me, I was hopeless on the courts. Yet even with so little in common, TJ turned around to say hello and we became instant friends. One day, just as we were leaving school, he asked me to come with him to the computer lab so he could show me something. He opened his computer and showed me some incredible digital designs that were beyond anything I thought was possible for a teenager. Colorful, elegant, computer-generated designs that hinted at a vibrant imagination and a very bright future to come. I later moved to a new school, and TJ and I lost touch over the years. We hadn't talked in over a decade when, as an adult, I saw my old friend walking toward me on number 3 Road looking a little worse for wear. He told me that he was living in a recovery house at the time, and that he'd been in a few of them in recent years. He told me he was living with a drug addiction that came about because of a mental condition that he found difficult to manage on his own. The addiction sent him into a spiral that saw him fall in and out of homelessness in various parts of Metro Vancouver. He lived on friends' couches, in recovery facilities, and in housing that was far less safe than either of these arrangements. Throughout this experience, he has still shown flashes of the same kind and vibrant person that he was at 13 years old. He's a visionary artist and a talented musician, and seeing this gives me hope that he can rediscover the person that he was going to become when we were teens. But I feel a lot less hope when I think of the kinds of drugs that are being pushed on the streets of our region. Drugs that are so dangerous that naloxone is not strong enough to counter their effects. And I feel even less hope when I learn of the lack of resources that people like him have to get better in the place where he grew up. This is why my heart swelled when I learned of the overwhelming support that Council gave to exploring a supervised consumption facility at Richmond Hospital. I could list the mounds of data that support the establishment of such a facility, but Council has already been here all night. So I'll boil it down to the data that matters most. No one has ever died from visiting Insight, the supervised consumption facility in downtown Vancouver. When drug users visit these facilities, they have access to a space where their safety is assured, where they can access naloxone to counter the effects of toxic drugs when they're not too toxic to resist their effects, where they can be provided with more opportunities to access treatment and support. In short, to visit one of these facilities is to have a near guarantee that traumatized people will not die from using drugs. That one stat leaves us with a very simple choice. We can let our daughters and sons die cold, isolated, and alone on park benches, in parks, in their homes, far from the supports that could keep them alive. Or we could bring them to a place close to home that gives them a chance not just at recovery, but at living again. Thank you.
The next speaker is, for a change of pace, Dan Cuba and group. Followed by Henry Au, who is online, and then Geraldine P.E. Is Geraldine here? Not online? No? Okay. Go ahead, sir. You got 5 minutes, eh?
Great, thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Councillors. My name is Dan Kupa, Vice President Development with Boza Properties, and I'm joined here tonight by Day and Night, our director, as well as Jesse Galice, our partner from Vanprop. Thank you for making space for our delegation tonight. Amongst this important issue, we'll be dealing with agenda item number 19, which is first reading for the Lansdowne Phase 1A. Needless to say, we're honored to be bringing this forward to you tonight. We had a very meaningful discussion last week at Planning Committee, and we had some excellent feedback from the councillors. We've been working feverishly over the last week with staff to integrate some changes into our program, which are now attached to the staff report. The Lansdowne Master Plan has been in the works for over a decade, with monumental consultation with both the community and the city, and it was enacted last fall. Phase 1A is in line with that bylaw. That said, there's going to be opportunities for amendments and improvements to the master plan as each phase comes forward. This is the case with Phase 1A, which is now what we're going to be talking to you about tonight. Phase 1A is not only in line with the existing bylaw, but it goes above and beyond with over $150 million in public benefits and more. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Dea to take you through some of the highlights of our program.
Thank you. Phase 1A delivers nearly 300 units of rental housing, 157 market and 141 lemur units. In partnering with Success, this is going to be the largest lemur project ever to be delivered in Richmond. With a diverse unit mix of 66% family units in the lemur, this far exceeds policy of 20%, and the market rental at 45%. We are really pleased to say that after a very insightful planning committee, we are able, with our design team, to bring forward 10 new 3-bedroom units to the market rental housing. In addition to the $5.1 million in security to guarantee the 6,000 square feet facility, childcare hub facility in the future center, we are also proposing up to 3 eligible units of licensed family childcare that could potentially bring up to 24 children's spots. Current supply of lemur housing in Richmond is not very close to SkyTrain and is often spread out. In Phase 1A alone, we're bringing nearly 80% of the lemur housing annual target and over at 125% of the market. In partnering with Success, we're also going to be the largest supply of affordable housing operator-run units in all of Richmond, with the 474 units that are out there today. 73% of them are run by property managers that are not-for-profit. So we're very proud of this fact. With the public spaces, there's 2 acres of parks and open spaces in Phase 1 alone. And there are green links that are going to be connecting to the Central Park, which is about over 3 soccer fields large. The parks and community spaces are at the full discretion of the city to determine the programming. Lansdowne is going to be a complete community where residents won't need to own a car, with 70% living within a 5-minute walk of the SkyTrain and 4.5 kilometers of new bike lanes and cycle routes. Phase 1 alone will deliver car share, bicycle facilities, accessible multimodal routes, including a multi-use path and a newly pedestrianized mews that is above and beyond the OCP requirements, as well as a mobility hub by the SkyTrain. Lansdowne redevelopment will replace close to 50 acres of non-permeable paving and roofing and reduce the heat island effect by nearly, or at least 50%. It'll plant over 250 new trees, 174 of which meet the minimum requirements and well exceed the 2-to-1 replacement ratio, as well as the 44 trees that have been retained on site. A detailed preservation plan has been part of our submission and will continue to be explored in the development permit phase. Beyond bringing the STEP code requirements and low carbon energy, we are proposing building 3 net zero carbon ready buildings, which will be net zero once the city fully decarbonizes its heating supply. Phase 1A is providing a monetary contribution towards the city's off-site plant that helps us get closer to this decarbonization.
It's a tough market out there. The affordability crisis is real. With your support, we can get shovels in the ground and start building on this vision that has been a decade in the making and start to deliver 300 rental units within a year's time. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next speaker is Henry Au, and Henry is online. Then Geraldine P.E. Is Geraldine here? No. Daniel S. I don't know what the last name is. Daniel S. Anyone by that? Okay. And then we have Guy Felicella. So Henry Au.
Hi there. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So my name is Henry. I'm really grateful to speak here tonight. And I show no malice towards anybody and respect different points of view because we're a democracy with much cherished freedoms. You know, I'm just an average Joe who has lived here in this very same house here in Richmond for 31 plus years. I'm a family man, happily married, and with a 3.5-year-old son. I grew up here, went to school here, and currently work here in Richmond. I'm normally way too busy working to make ends meet rather than attending city council meetings, let alone making a speech in front of you guys. I feel honored. Thank you very much for letting me speak here. But Richmond has been deteriorating on every conceivable metric, especially the last 6-7 years, in part thanks to many of the policies this city and province has implemented, greatly inspired by Justin Trudeau's woke political agenda. I can no longer escape the reality, the long-term impacts, especially on crime and safety and the economy, that the proposed construction of the safe drug consumption site, or SCS, in a city center area will have on the city. I'm at the point where I have no choice but to speak out, especially for the next generation. Besides the concerns that the past 39 previous speakers have expressed, let me share with a point of view with you guys that is worth pondering. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst by trade. As a behavior consultant working with individuals with autism, I conduct behavior assessments and set up behavior therapy programs for behavior interventionists to carry out, focusing on learners' social, language, and practical life skills. That's right, identifying and setting up objective behavioral goals is what I do for work. As a practitioner in my field, one of the basic rules of research and planning for programs is to identify a question and goal that has high internal and social validity. Internal validity being whether it is measuring or achieving what it is supposed to measure and achieve, and social validity being whether the goal is relevant and has broad support within the community. Sadly to say, the current proposal to build the SCS in Richmond by the Richmond General Hospital fails both of these tests terribly. Let's take a look at the internal validity of this issue. When we look at SCS and encounter people suffering from drug addiction in our city, our immediate reaction would be, how can we help them so that they can be completely free from the evils of drug addiction and recover their lives torn apart by it and move on with their life and recover their families and their relationships? If that's the case, then why are we still spending millions and millions on numerous studies on still maintaining their drug-taking habit by merely giving them safe or cleaner drugs with the goal of harm reduction that's still leading to increased drug overdoses and deaths in the past several years? In my field, we postulate that the immediate environment, if you can see this right here, antecedents and consequences ultimately influence behaviors. We call this the ABC contingency. You will notice that the antecedents is the environment that immediately precedes the behavior, and consequence is whatever happens after the behavior. So looking at this idea here, it's pretty obvious that by giving out safe or cleaner drugs within SCS, it's a no-brainer, even from a layperson, that we're just merely perpetuating the drug habits addiction, because it's pretty clear that the presence of drugs will lead the person to continue taking drugs, and the consequences of the effect of drugs will lead them to continue to go that path of drug dependency. So overall, you can paint a lipstick and put harm reducers on the drugs and put whatever sweeteners on the drugs, but it's still a drug. You can point out studies supporting the existence of SCS all you want, but the politicians and medical professionals got their purpose and goals wrong on treating drug addiction in the first place. Really, I think we need to think about what the policy goal it should be. What can I do to help people with drug addiction get detoxed and rehab and become drug-free, either via voluntary or involuntary ways, rather than what can I do to build more SCS and let them at it with their old habits of drug addiction via safer drugs this time in order to reduce overdoses and diseases. Now, as for the social validity of building SCS, the majority of speakers voicing opposition to SCS speaks for themselves. Can you imagine a safe consumption site being built less than 200 meters from Brick House Elementary School? Can you imagine that? The process of trying to ram the SCS through our throats shows that there's a complete lack of accountability within the Richmond City Hall. Why? Because the majority of our population here has a culture of traditionally shunning politics and rather focus on working hard to provide comfortable living for our families. Therefore, very few people bother to come and vote, and the same folks get re-elected again and again. Do you know how long our mayor has been mayor for? For almost as long as Vladimir Putin, believe it or not. I was still in high school then. So this says the current...
Thank you. I choose to think that Vladimir has been in power almost as long as me. But anyway. Okay, so the next one is Geraldine P. I don't think she is here. Daniel S. Okay, that brings us to Guy Felicella, and then after that, who's on Zoom, and then Sam Leung. Is Sam here? Sam Leung? Not here. And Alex Sagert. Is Alex here? Okay, on Zoom. Yes, should be looking at that. Okay, so it'd be to Guy Felicella on Zoom.
Thanks to Mayor Brody and all the city councilors. I'm obviously very much in favor of the site being in Richmond. And just a little background before I get into it. I have actually never witnessed so much stigmatizing and misleading language from the people who are opposing this site. We don't have to be so mean when we talk about people who are vulnerable and struggling in our society who are using these substances. I am a former drug user as well, who had to be brought back to life multiple times. And I used at a supervised consumption site in the downtown east side of Vancouver over 4,000 times. These facilities not only saved my life, but they also helped change my life. It built connections with facility staff members who were non-judgmental for me struggling at the time of need. And they actually helped connect me to detox and treatment services. My last overdose was February 18th, 2013, where I lay motionless on the floor at the supervised consumption site in the downtown east side of Vancouver. When I awoke, the nurse was visibly emotional, and my response to her was, "Why are you crying?" And her response back was, "Because I care." And I just burst into tears. And I knew again at that moment that I was either going to die in my addiction or I was going to die trying to get out. And what often is not reflected in the conversations that have been here is that Insight has a detox facility on the second floor. And I went up to that facility. I am now coming up on 11 years sober. I have 3 beautiful children. I speak publicly on the importance of harm reduction and recovery in our society, working together to support the needs of people who are struggling. We cannot build relationships with people who use drugs in back alleys or in the shadows. And with the vulgar language that came from this public forum tonight, it is easy to see why substance users do not reach out for help and support. It's our society has to look at changing. We are in a toxic drug crisis in our society. And 26 Richmond residents died. And although that doesn't seem like a big number to some of you people in Richmond, go tell that to the families who have lost these loved ones in Richmond. This is a cherished individual, a loved one, a neighbor, a friend, a community member. These people are not people who are garbage or disposable. There are people with complex needs and struggles and challenges in our society. If we don't change how we view this, this will continue to get far worse in our society. And I want to reflect, out of the 2,500 plus people who died of a drug overdose, the majority of those people had been to treatment and recovery many times in their lifetime. And they went back to that toxic drug supply. This is a chronic relapsing condition. And sadly, people just don't go to recovery and treatment and then never use drugs again. It took me 26 years of going through treatment over a dozen times. And out of that 26 years, I finally got 1 year sober. And then I relapsed again and went out for 5 years and had to be brought back to life 6 times. If that supervised consumption site didn't exist, my kids wouldn't exist. The life that I live today wouldn't exist. I think in our society, the most important thing that we have to remember is telling somebody to not use drugs doesn't stop them from using them. We have to do better at supporting people instead of punishing them and pushing them in the shadows. And until we do that, this will continue to get worse and more people will die in Richmond. The sad thing is, in our society, if we don't make the difference in people's lives to show them that we support them, sadly, this will continue for years and years to come. And if you want to not see drug use in your community, then a supervised consumption site will reduce those visible drug using in the community, and it will also be a spot for people to discard their paraphernalia, syringes, and other paraphernalia that they use. These facilities save lives, and I.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Sam Leung, who I understand is here. Okay, you're next. Then Alex Sager is on Zoom, and Albert Hu is on Zoom. So, Sam Leung first.
Testing. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Leung, and I'm a resident of Richmond, and I'm a father of 2 children. First of all, I would like to express that I agree to be sympathetic and to take care of people in need, including those suffering from drug addiction. But we need to wisely choose the right solution which can turn them, which can truly help them, and at the same time minimizing the impact to the community. Unfortunately, in my point of view, supervised consumption sites seems not to be a right solution to help the people get rid of the problem. But instead, keep them and even the residents in the community in a risky situation. I clearly oppose the establishment of supervised consumption sites. While applicants said that SCS could save lives, it seems to be a quite confusing, or to me, I think it's quite misleading. Because there's no doubt that the nature of taking drugs or drug addiction is never helping our health like vitamin or healthy food. Instead, it's definitely damaging the people's health and even killing lives. Instead of saving lives by eliminating the root cause of the issue, providing drugs to the people suffering from drugs indeed keep them exploring into life-threatening risk. While there are also other ways like rehabilitation to help them quit using drugs, why keep on providing harmful stuff and let them keep in the loop? Because we are also here to take care to all of our labor and all the people in need. Not only the drug consumers are exposed to risk, people in the community are also exposed to risk and huge impact. The closure of overdose prevention site OPS at Yellowtown is an example to show the community is unable to cater the negative impact to the site. There's also tragedy that an overdose prevention worker was killed while he was on duty at St. Paul's Hospital in 2020. Apart from the cases happened in Vancouver, I would like to share a real-life example that happened in my life in the building that I'm living. The building I'm living is just next to the Richmond Modular Wing City housing. Just like one of our speakers previously, I think he also lived in the same building as mine. There are also many break-in and theft cases in the car park storage room of the building by the homeless. But the worst case is that one time, when my neighbor went to the storage room in the building, he found there's a suspicious homeless-looking person inside, and the person tried to stab to my neighbor with a knife. It is really a life-threatening risk happening right here in the building. It's really killing life. So that's why it's really frightening me. Even when every night I go to the garbage room to dispose my garbage, I feel frightened and unsafe. We are all sympathetic and supportive to our homeless labor in the community. But at the same time, we are also facing personal safety issues and even life-threatening risk now. Building CSC will definitely raise the crime and disorder like drug dealing, theft, robbery, and even assault, which bring the community safety into risky situation. While drug consumers requesting for safety drug usage, what people in the community want is just a very simple, humble lead or living in a safe environment. Drug consumers are described as vulnerable group, but as a parent of 2, I believe children and teenagers may be even more vulnerable and needed to be protected. Not only the personal safety I mentioned previously, the most important thing is that establishing CSC in the community may deliver a warm message to the teenagers that drug taking has been endorsed, and they may think they are allowed to try taking drugs. It will be a huge damage to our children and the future of the community. While parents are trying hard to keep the children away from drugs, ironically, the proposed SCS location at Richmond Hospital is just 5 to 10 minutes walking distance next to Samuel Brickhouse Elementary School, which is the school that my children go to, and Richmond High School. The proposal of SCS at Richmond Hospital is definitely risking the life and the future of the children. Last but not least, I'm wondering why there is no public hearing or consultation report for such an important item, which will potentially cause huge impact to the community. And why is it so rushed to proceed the decision for the proposal in just 1 week time? Before comprehensive public consultation to make sure different voices in the community have
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll now go online for Alex Sager, and then Albert Hu, who is also online, and Daniel Remedios, again, who is online. So Alex Sager, go ahead.
Good evening. I address you today as a concerned citizen and recovering addict since 2015 to voice my strong opposition to the practicality and analysis for the establishment of a supervised consumption site within our community. While I wholeheartedly recognize the importance of addressing substance abuse issues, I firmly believe that the proposal lacks the comprehensive approach necessary to effectively tackle the underlying problems. Having personally battled addiction, I intimately understand the complexities and challenges associated with substance abuse. For years, I grappled with addiction, spending exorbitant sums on drugs and navigating the relentless cycle of dependence. In my darkest moments, the concept of a supervised consumption site would have had little impact on my daily struggles. Moreover, the idea of locating such a facility within a hospital precinct raises significant concerns, particularly when the motion fails to clearly define its location and implications. To genuinely confront this issue of substance abuse, we must prioritize comprehensive wraparound services from the outset. It is concerning that even during my high school years, having graduated in 2008, harm reduction techniques were taught instead of emphasizing prevention. Teaching prevention in schools provides an ideal starting point by promoting prevention over harm reduction and safe supply. I believe we could be in a far better position today. Mere implementation of the safe consumption site without adequate support services is not only inadequate but potentially harmful. While there is a recognized need for such services, the current motion fails to adequately address these critical aspects. Claims have been made that such a facility could prolong lives. However, without a robust framework centered on recovery and abstinence, we risk perpetuating the cycle of addiction. Many individuals accessing these sites encounter barriers to entering recovery programs, resulting in reliance on temporary solutions such as methadone or Suboxone prescriptions. Furthermore, attempts to coerce individuals into treatment without addressing underlying readiness and support needs may exacerbate the problem. The proposed motion calls for a practicality analysis, yet it overlooks the fundamental sequence of priorities: detoxification, recovery-based treatment, and then supervised consumption. By prioritizing the latter without addressing the former, we risk overlooking the root cause of addiction and merely scratch the surface of this complex issue. As evidenced by overwhelming opposition expressed through a petition signed by over 18,000 residents, it is clear that a more thoughtful and inclusive approach is warranted. I implore the Council to refrain from hastily proceeding with this decision and instead engage with the community to explore alternate solutions. Let us take the time to listen to the voices of those who have entrusted you with their representation and collaborate with Vancouver Coastal Health to conduct a thorough analysis that encompasses the insights and ideas of our citizens. And to finish, here's what I experienced from Richmond Addiction Services. When I finally asked for help, my mom took me to Richmond Addiction Services. We had a 5-minute chat about my drug use. And then they said, because there is a couple-month wait for a public-funded bed for rehab, we are going to prescribe methadone to you. I said, no, I do not want to replace one drug for another. I want to get off drugs completely, and was told this was my only option. We left that place with no hope, and my parents fearing for the worst, reopened their mortgage and spent over $60,000 on private rehab for a 9-month program. These services you all speak of being readily available, are only making pharmaceutical companies richer and have no impact or help to people that can't afford treatment and rely on the government. I realize this is a provincial issue, but why were you able to write the province to install more red light cameras and not write a letter to SORT, a wraparound program that treats the entire problem? Thank you.
All right. No, we've been through this. Okay, so Albert Hu is online as well, then Daniel Remedios and Agnes Louis. Is Agnes here? I guess not. Okay, go ahead, Albert Hu.
Can open.
Go ahead.
My video is not able to turn on. I don't know. You guys taught me.
Yeah, let's have your video.
Thank you. Hello?
All right.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Mr. City Councilor. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, I lived in Richmond for almost 21 years. First, I want to say I'm sorry for all the mother who lost their son because the drug addictions, and they found that they have help, but it's too late. Personally, I think our law in Canada make us lose in drug law. SCS, could that help? Maybe for somebody, but not in the high priority for me. Like the last speaker said, city try to do something which is provincial level or federal levels. We don't solve the root cause of this issue. I worked for Mr. Bodie for a long times. I worked even him in South and other my same race person run the mayor because I know Bodie would make a bright call. I saw what they changed on the last, before the Olympics. I see the arena coming in downtown. I love it. I love the city very well. But I think this SCS is proposed too fast, and there's no deep investigation for how we do this properly. And also the public relations is total disaster, I think, personally. You guys can do much better than that. Like a couple years ago, you guys have failed to do the snow shuffle on the street. After that, you guys listen, everything clean. I like it. I hope you guys will do this right job for us continuously. And other than that, I already sent an email to Mr. Bodie about why I don't like this SCS. Personally, in 10, 15 years, I'm going to retire. I want my mineral park, in the city will be as good as today or even better. And all the community center will be enjoying the senior center that we really new build will be continued as good as right now. And I don't know where the drugs come from. Those guys need drugs. They have to get it somewhere around the area. So I don't want the dealer to come here just selling the drugs and then leave all the mess, and we need to clean up for them. And that's it all I want to say. Thank you for your hearing me.
Okay, thank you. As I understand, okay, there's the next speaker is Daniel Remedios. And then there's Agnes Louis, if she is here, and Mindy Lee, who is on Zoom. Is she there? She's there. Okay, so it's Daniel Remedios. Go ahead.
Yep. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Daniel Remedios, and interestingly enough, I'm the executive director of Richmond Addiction Services Society. So we're a nonprofit in Richmond that has been around since 1975, and we aim to educate and engage community on topics related to harm reduction and prevention surrounding substance use and related behaviors, primarily for teenagers and young adults. Interestingly enough, I'm also a parent and an immigrant to Richmond, but realistically, items like those shouldn't matter because addiction affects all of us equally. regardless of our status, our employment rates, immigrant status, or naturalized Canadian, or age, addiction affects everyone. It doesn't discriminate. It's clear as I'm listening to this evening that the subject has brought up a lot of strong emotions, feelings, and anecdotal evidence around substance use. However, I was hoping to encourage a shift today to a focus on factual data and statistics, some of which I'm hoping to share with you in the next couple of minutes. Everyone is right. The closest comparison we have of a safe consumption site is the Insight program running in Vancouver, which interestingly is also run by Vancouver Coastal Health, who put forward this motion to City Council. The numbers you've heard, they show that there's been 3.6 million visits since 2003. That's 180,000 people per year, and everyone is right. There have been no reported deaths inside a site. There have been a lot of studies done over the past 20 years. It shows that Insight reduces HIV risk, it promotes the treatment of addiction, it reduces overdose risk, and realistically overdose death. If you look at it from a tax dollar perspective, like people are talking about the funding, where it's coming from, the initiative like Insight's actually shown to reduce costs on taxpayers by approximately 30% by actually reducing the related infection rates at hospitals. Now, I know, speaking from a local perspective, the reported deaths of toxic substances. In 2023, there were 26 people that died, 22, 29, and 2021, there were 33. And I know people think that numbers are low in Vancouver, but in reality, that's actually 81 Richmond families that are still looking for answers and hundreds more individuals that are connected to those little ripples. Richmond paramedics, we spoke to them, they respond to one overdose call a day. And the evidence actually shows that actually having a safe consumption site reduces those numbers of death as well as the number of calls. It has to be said that a safe consumption site, like people are thinking that it is the be all and end all. It's actually not. It's actually it's one part of a larger spectrum of addiction, ranging from prevention all the way to the treatment options. And I initially came on to stress to council to ensure that VCH would provide those additional services that many people see are lacking, and it's valid, it is. But clearly, there has been a miscommunication between the item that was posted and people's anger or confusion or aggression for it today. There are broader issues that intersect with addiction. There's poverty, there's homelessness, an increase in mental health in our youth. But all of those, people have to understand that they fall outside the scope of a safe injection site. The safe injection site is done for one specific task. It just stops people from dying. People that are overdosing, it stops them from dying. And you can't argue against the facts. It's a clear success. The fact that drug use, crime, and poverty are still prevalent in the downtown east side is not a failure caused by the Insight program. It's correlation. Right now, I think it's a good option to have this discussion because we have an opportunity to address an issue. It's already present in Richmond. People have been dying over the past 5 years. And regardless of if you choose to acknowledge or not, people will continue to die at the same rate if we do nothing. Something is better than nothing. I believe that the number of individuals dying in Richmond will continue if we choose to do nothing, and we can't have that. As a form of harm reduction, as a form of prevention, and as a form of reducing suffering of our community members, RAS staff and the RAS organization actually supports this initiative. Thank you for my time.
All right, thank you. The next speaker, Agnes Louis. Is Agnes here? No? Mindy Lee was on Zoom but has been disconnected somehow? Sorry? She's out. Okay. Stephen Mather is here. Please come forward. And then there's Esther Leung. Is Esther on Zoom?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Esther is on.
Okay, and then Cheryl Seaman Chu and another person, are they here? Okay, so anyway, Stephen Mather, go ahead, sir.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I've been a Richmond resident for over 30 years. I raised 3 kids here. They went through the school system. A lot of you are probably familiar with a couple of my kids. Their names are Jesse and Katie Mather. They were torn apart by a dog here in a park about 10 years ago, made international news. And they were torn apart by social media with a bunch of the kids in their school saying, wish you were killing you instead of the dog. And it kind of cemented them into what then was the beginning of an addiction that started from gangs and parties in school. And now it's been 10 years. I'm one of the lucky ones. Both my daughters are still alive. They're both in active addiction. And I can say that I know of 5 kids just in the last 3 weeks that have passed away. That's 5 more parents that are missing their kids. There's going to be a lot more. It's not going away. In the last 10 years, I've just watched it exponentially get worse and worse and worse, and more and more and more people dying. I can't even count the amount of kids that I know that have died on my fingers and toes anymore. The safe consumption site, it seems that a lot of people have got it mistaken for a safe drug place where they go to get their safe drugs. No, they get their drugs off the street. They can go there and get them tested and make sure they're not going to die. One of my daughters had to be Narcan 34 times. 34 times. The only reason she's alive, that's in one sitting. She's been Narcaned over 100 times, but in one sitting, 34, because it was carfentanil. And if it wasn't her sister there, she'd be dead, because they usually stop at 8 or 9. But my family's a little crazy, and we have an awful lot of it around, because they're also out there saving lives. They're Narcanning people every day. They're doing chest compressions on people every day, trying to keep their friends alive. This safe consumption site, it's not the be-all and end-all, but it's a start and it's a spark of hope. And every one of those people needs a spark of hope. Now, I've heard people coming up here and they're saying, yeah, my car's been broken into and my underground parking lot. Yes, because they go there to use, because there isn't a safe place. So they break into places and then they use and then they're high and then they see the cars and they break into the cars and they steal more stuff so they can go and use. But if they were using in a safe consumption site beside a hospital, they wouldn't be in your underground parking lot. Do you want to find my daughter beside your car dead in the morning, or would you rather the hospital deals with her when she overdoses? It's happening. The drugs are here. People go, Minaru, Minaru. Go to Minaru at night. You can see them injecting. I do. I go there. Go over to Brig House. There's 50 people sitting in the fields getting high right now. They're here in this city. They're in this city already. The drugs are already here. Let's try and keep a few people alive till we can get a little bit more put into recovery and recovery beds. You know, I see a lot of flower beds getting done on 3 Road. How about we spend that money on recovery beds instead of flower beds? You want to clean up the city and make it look pretty? Let's get some of those addicts off the streets. You know, right now they're ODing outside of Tim Hortons on 3 Road. They're using in all the SkyTrain stations. It's out there and in front of everybody already. It's there. Let's try and get them to a safe place where professionals can work with them. What was one of the signs of hope in here? One of the signs of hope is this collaboration will ensure that individuals accessing these sites receive comprehensive care, including access to addiction treatment, harm minimization services, and counseling. They're not getting that over at Brig House when they OD in the field. They're not getting it when they OD by the pond over in Minaru. They're out here ODing already. Let's try and get things. I love the idea of actually having a safe place. I already asked my daughters, would you use it if they had one here? They said yes. Why? Because they've already lost 5 of their friends in the last 5 weeks. Yes, they'd go there. They'd get the drugs tested. Am I going to die? No. Is there going to be somebody there that might be able to talk them into recovery in that moment? The best chance of getting somebody into recovery is actually after they overdose. That's when they're scared. That's when they want help. It doesn't help at the park at Brig House or under a SkyTrain station, but it will help there. It's a glimmer of hope. And I, for one, am a person that sure hopes we get some hope, because it's been over 10 years of trying to keep my daughters alive. And some of my friends haven't been so goddamn lucky. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Esther Leung is online. Yep, and just I'll ask Cheryl Seaman Chu and group. Are they here? Or online or anything? Are they here? Okay, my suggestion is this will be the last speaker for the evening. We'll have to adjourn this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But go ahead, Esther Leon.
Hello, good evening. My name is Esther Leung. I live in Richmond, very close to the city hall. I would say no drugs, because drugs are no good. They hurt people's bodies. That is not what my values are. So I oppose to the safe consumption site. I'm a retired teacher. What are we telling? I'm thinking, what are we telling to our young people that these are safe? It's misleading. And also, I've heard, actually, temptations are everywhere. The schools, they are grade 8, grade 9, people, the students they have classmates or schoolmates to ask them to have, give them drugs or whatever. So temptations is always there. And then you build a safety site, and then they have another excuse, say, oh, this is safe, you're okay. If you run into problems, then you will be safe. You have somebody to look after you. So I would say this would be hurting the people that are using, promoting the idea of using more drugs, and maybe attracting more young people. They are vulnerable. They don't know what is really here, but they want to try new things. So I really oppose of that. When I first heard about a friend telling me that there would be a safe consumption site, she said, I am angry. I was shocked. I thought this was a joke. But then 2 weeks later, it was there, and like 8 people approved it, only 1 objected. So I think tonight I have heard all these brave people that come into like online or in the city hall. I have heard the strong emotions of anger, fear, sadness of losing their loved ones, sons and daughters. And I think I feel I am a mother too. And also maybe disgust when you go downtown. I've been there. The smelly, they ruin the cities. You cannot go to the city feeling safe. We have fear because this is not a safety place anymore. And there are so many people coming out. It is not really like the Chinese always reserve, but we are coming out. So I think we need to do something. And there is another emotion of joy. I have never heard joy today in our delegation. So please reconsider, councillors and Mayor Bodie, that also I would like to say there are more theft, breaking into cars in our building. And a friend and 2 friends told me that one have their mailboxes open during the night. The next morning they found out, and they have the video on, but nothing has been done. Are we still safe? So I would like, and we should have more consultation to let people speak of their heart. We don't want our city to be in anger, in fear, in sadness, in disgust, but no joy. Thank you very much.
No. All right, thank you very much. So I'm going to suggest, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting until 7 o'clock tomorrow night to take place right here at the City Council chambers. So moved.
Moved, seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried.
I just want to make one point, though. We have, many more speakers. We have a speakers list, as you all know. We'll not be reopening the speakers list. We've still got, 40 or 50, 50 to go or something like that. So we're not adjourning it till tomorrow night so that we can then reopen the speakers list. We're just simply adjourning, and we'll take up tomorrow at 7 o'clock from where we are now. All right, so thank you very much.